Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Westeros. We are coming at you from Sandy Dorn. We have finally made it home. The young scions of House Nymerian have now traveled full circle. They left from Wyvern's Rest, went to King's Landing. Nothing very exciting happened. The tourney was pretty boring. That's why we got through it so quickly. And then they are now back home at Wyvern's Rest, having safely made the journey back. So we are coming at you live right here from the Shadowcasters Network. We're going to do our normal introduction nonsense, make our way through the party. I'm going to actually go first this time, though, and remind you, dear viewers, that you are also a player and that the Iron Throne over my head is also a character. So remember, you can like and subscribe and do bits and all of that other stuff with imaginary Twitch money that Twitch turns into real money. But when you seize the Iron Throne, you will get a destiny point that you can give to a player or a non-player character, and they'll get a little bit more narrative spotlight. We're not super likely to run into a bunch of necessary mechanical stuff. Grandpa Makar's not going to like challenge you all to wrestling matches or anything. There's not going to be any really nitty gritty mechanical rock paper scissors with the House Maester or Aunt Elia just stabbing y'all to welcome you home. Nothing like that. Not planning on any big combats, but there is still the narrative side effect of somebody maybe getting a little bit more spotlight, or getting to make a decision that they normally wouldn't get to make, things like that. So, Iron Throne, super important. You, the viewer, are super important, and not just because I love you as friends. Speaking of love, let's pass it over to Felicia, my lovely wife. Who are you? Who's your character? How did King's Landing go?
I see the link. I'm Felicia. I play Lady Rhaena Nymerian. I'm heir to the House Nymerian, and one of uh, the eldest siblings are actually twins, and I'm just happen to be older by a few moments. Uh, and How did King's Landing go? It was freaking awesome. I mean, bad things happened. Don't get me wrong. We made enemies, but we also built alliances, established uh, connections with some houses of Westeros. We we represented ourselves very well in the joust, and then we basically won the melee. um, and the only reason we didn't like win is because we were fighting the king, and eh, there's no win there. So, and then we ended up having another giant fight, which was the trial by seven, which when we were accused of murder and other such conspiracy type things. But the gods smiled, and we came away the winners. Uh, we did lose our cousin Will in that battle. Uh, he was he was slain, uh, and but despite that loss, we as a house actually came very far ahead. And then so with that in mind, uh, I would go to Adam, eldest
Hi.
to youngest. Boom boom.
Yeah. Um, Hi. I'm Ash. I play Adam Nymerian, and mistakes were made. Quite a lot of them by me. Yeah. The King's Landing is a cesspool, and if Adam has to go back there again, it'll be too soon.
It's a little small.
It was okay. It was all right. Yeah, there was some very very good stuff and some very very bad stuff. It was quite stressful, but he won the archery contest and so has a kick-ass new bow made of the literal bones of a dragon. That's pretty metal. Um, uh, but of course, in kind of play more of a supporting role for the family because he's not a melee fighter. So did a little bit of kind of schmoozing, I guess, and then managed to piss off our collective squire multiple times by expressing feelings for him and then really not dealing with the rejection well. Oh, hi, Pody. Oh, who's a good girl? Hey, baby.
She's the best.
Yeah, okay. Thanks for the distraction, Rusty. Yeah, so like to quote a song, it's got emotional motion sickness. Too many things get real too fast.
Right.
Yeah, so it's kind of coming home a bit of a mess.
As opposed to when he left home, a smaller bit of a mess.
I mean, he was physically a mess, but and only somewhat emotionally a mess. Now he's much more of emotionally a mess.
He's just a different mess. So all right, Ash, who's up next?
Let's go to my other sister.
Okay. I am Erica, and I am playing Bela Nightmarian. I am the younger twin and second heir to the house of Nightmarian. And I had lots of great fun at the tournament. And while I didn't win the joust, I performed quite well and got in the round of 8 out of 64 total jousters. So that was a big success there. Then I performed in the melee with our team, and we did quite well. In fact, at the end, it was just the king and myself and Oris still standing, I believe. And the hand of the king kind of put an end to things before they could continue as they were. As there was some doubt as to who was going to come out the victor in it. At least that's how I'm going to tell the story. And yeah, so it was me and Oris against the king, and that's no small feat. And then after that was the ugliness of being accused of some nefarious plots. However, we were vindicated by winning the historic trial by 7, and when we did that, I killed the champion to our rival house, the evil Ironwoods, and and then having won that, we have been deemed to be innocent in the eyes of the 7, and the accusers have met justice. And with that said, I am eager to express these joyous victories for our house upon coming home. So yeah, I guess finally we have our other sibling, Lucaris, and he's here today but a little bit under the weather, so that's why he's not on camera today, but he'll be in and out to chat with us as we play.
Hi, everybody. As stated, I'm Robert. I'm playing Luke Harris. And yes, I'm not feeling quite well today, so please bear with me. He is excited to be home. We'll leave it at that. Get into it.
All right.
Luke actually, I think it's fair to say that Luke actually has a lot of complicated emotions about coming home, since he's basically been fostered at King's Landing all of his late childhood and up till now. So
yeah,
I
he
think,
it's been
Those
about
are
6
all
years
lies.
in King's Landing, and yeah.
so he's a little extra anxious about coming home. I'll
You
speak
may-
for you, Robert.
You are speaking correct, so please continue.
He's had some stress and worry about how he's going to fit in at home, what's his place in the house, uh, being the eldest son in a house where, where the women are actually heir, has been complicated for him. Uh, so we're cutting him some slack.
So that's our quick kind of out of character recaps. We are going to be getting some in character versions of some of that later on, and I think it's going to be interesting because I think a lot of the details are going to vary based on which of the player characters ends up answering which questions, and that sort of thing. Like, depending on who they ask about the joust, they might get totally different information and recaps, and stuff like that. Like, so I think it's going to be kind of a fun episode, just to be able to compare actual prior episodes as they happened versus how various player characters have remembered those prior episodes. So we are looking at a pretty roleplay heavy episode that is probably going to be a pretty good time because we've had a lot of fun with those in the past. Where we last left off was with the young scions of House Nymerian basically just making it home. They finished their travels from King's Landing down towards the Stoneway. They had a little bit of an eerie stay in the keep of House Will. And then they did their last little bit. And we cut last episode as Wyvern's Rest in all its splendor was like just in sight. So we're going to pick up with your little caravan making their way kind of into the gates or through the gates and into the courtyard. And this is not terribly unlike the end of, Star Wars A New Hope, right? Where you've got a couple like nobles up top and like other people lining each side and all that. This was a very big deal to your house. The entire future of the house went to King's Landing, and that was it. Like they were they were heckin' concerned while you guys were away, and your return safely and all that is a really big deal because you guys are literally the future of House Nymerian, and it was no sure thing that you would travel to the usurper's capital and then make it home in one piece. So everyone is out here basically. You've got at the kind of end of the courtyard is your grandfather, Lord Makar Nymerian, with his maester, as ever, at his arm. And then near them is your master at arms from the house, and at his arm, basically, is the hedge knight, Wooly Will, who again looks a little out of place next to the lord and the maester and the master at arms. And like there's this super mega shaggy hedge knight, and he is still on one crutch, you notice, as you make your way forward. And then on the other side of Lord Makar are both of the bannermen of House Nymerian. Sir Adam Bridington, a landed knight that's kind of the lead cavalry dude of your house. And also, of course, Aunt Elia, who is the best damn archer in Nymerian lands, taught most of you how to use the bow, taught some of you how to be powerful, confident women, etc., etc. All sorts of cool, positive stuff from your cool, positive Aunt Elia. So the bannermen are arrayed, and the maester, the master at arms, this traveling hedge knight. But also on either side of the courtyard, there's some civilian staff, like the people that run the kitchens, and that sort of thing. But also they've got a couple of your military units here, all standing in neat rows, kind of snapping to attention, and it's pretty impressive. Like before you know it, your sad little caravan that's returning home has turned into a parade for like the length of this courtyard. You guys are definitely all center stage, and as you make it about halfway through the courtyard, the silence is broken as your lord, grandfather Makar, lifts a hand to greet you home, and all the troops just fucking let loose with roars and cheers and clapping, and those that have the right gear slapping their weapons against their shields, and all that stuff, just like this huge kind of fanfare thing. So yeah, y'all are home, boys and ghouls.
When we like come in through the gates, I'm picturing Bayla and Raina at the head, and Raina's new sand steed, and she just kind of puts her into a prance, as we come in, like a celebratory dance, like we're home, we're home.
How about Bayla? What's the younger twin doing to respond to all?
So I'm probably a little bit more militaristic serious. So I still have like a smile on my face as I acknowledge like grandfather and Aunt Elia and Sir Bridington and the troops, but taking it a little bit more serious the welcome home.
So a little bit less flashy and relaxed about it.
Yeah.
Sounds like. All right. How about Adam? You were kind of next in line the way y'all were describing the caravan and stuff. How's the wee little Nymerian responding to this sort of attention and cheer?
Well, Adam had been riding with Lady Iris in the carriage, so on the approach will be kind of leaning out the side and wave and giving him a modest wave.
Okay, and then
No
how
showboating.
he doesn't try to do anything fancy on his way through the gates. How about Lucaris there, kind of bringing up the rear of the little convoy?
So after Lady Darren's carriage with Adam goes in, a few moments will go by, and then the last person in the gates will be Luke, and he's wearing his full half-plate armor with kind of the silver and pearl inset with his sigil, and the dark wine red leather bits attached to it. And he has his visor open, and he's waving to everybody very casually as he enters.
All right. Alisane Mormont is just roaring and cheering along with everybody else. She's like, "Hey, everybody's happy. I love happy. Somebody give me a drink." Right? So she's cheering and stuff. Little Robert is kind of gawking around like he's never seen so many Dornishmen. He seems to just be like surprised that they're not torturing anyone or having an orgy. It's like, what is Dorn even? Like, this is so crazy. This is not
later.
all. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
later.
like first
Yeah,
you get the bread and salt.
First.
But he's just looking pretty wide-eyed at all of it. And you've gotten the impression during the travel that he's a little nervous about Dorn. And the stereotypes and the kind of slurs that you get up there. But he's looking wide-eyed through all of it and just looking impressed. Bessa of Fleabottom is riding shotgun, which they have a different name for it back then, riding crossbow, next to Oris on his little wagon. And she's just like clapping and dabbing at tears with her baker's apron that she still wears all the time, and like, oh, look at this place, and all that sort of thing. Oris grunts non-committally. You're pretty sure he's not looking up any more than he has the rest of the trip. He's still just kind of hunched over, paying attention to the reins. It seems to be about it for him. I believe that's basically everybody, right? So yeah, that's your kind of welcome back. And Lord Makar at the far end of the courtyard lowers the hand that had been raised in greeting, and you notice several of the civilian staff that were there nearby, some of the kitchen staff and such. They come scurrying right up to the rest of your convoy with bread and salt. They've got those kind of decorative, clay serving dish things with torn up pieces of bread and a little sea of salt in the middle. And they walk right past you lot because it's your home. You don't need bread and salt. But they start offering it to your guests, to the handful of men at arms that you lot brought with you, and that sort of thing. And Lord Makar seems to just be waiting for you lot up there at the kind of front of the courtyard area.
All right. We will ride up and dismount,
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
and I will wait for us to cluster at the head of this little column. So,
All right, a couple stable boys come up and take the reins as needed. Several of your riders get to work unhitching horses from wagons and that sort of thing, and now begins the work of just kind of dismantling the convoy and unloading stuff. And you hear one of the knights of the house already starting to bark some orders to some of the crossbowmen that you hired. And Lady Bessa just falls in with the kitchen staff, just right with them, kind of clucking along beside them in their wake, and wanders off with them towards the kitchen area. Oris is very studiously busying himself with the wagon. And Woolly Will, you lot notice as you get right up there with everyone, Woolly Will now has one leg. He's got a wooden peg and a crude kind of boot paddle at the end of it. And you remember he was hurt pretty bad, and that leg of his wasn't doing real well prior to y'all leaving. But he seems to be in good cheer, welcoming you lot home. He looks very kind of paternalistically proud of and relieved at all of you. He looks a little bit sad looking over your shoulders and seeing Oris busying himself with work and kind of trying to vanish into the crowd. But then, instead of paying attention to the lot of them, you've got Grandpa Makar, who starts in and, you are welcome back to your home. The red stones of Wyvern's Rest are safer now that you are all back within our walls. And then he gets cut off in the middle of his kind of formal greeting because Aunt Elia makes an initiative check and just bounds forward and is snatching Lucaris up, armor and all. Aunt Elia don't care. She works out. She hasn't seen little Luke as she squeals. Little Lukey!
Luke is handing his off to the stable
Yeah.
boys and, asking them their names and being friendly when he is ambushed.
Yeah.
And gives in to the ambush in Elia.
So yeah, she's got him up off his feet and then kind of drops him back down on the I guess not cobbles, because it's not that sort of stone, the paved, courtyard with the clatter of the half plate. And she's all, oh, look at how big you got. And oh, look at this. Oh, look at that pretty face. And she reaches up just like you're 6 years old again. It's just like, blah, 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 on your cheek and all that. And then you hear
All my
Makar,
efforts to look cool ruined.
and then you hear a very soft from Lord Makar, and she kind of goes, oop, and comically makes a face and goes scrambling back to her spot in the little formal welcoming thing. And then you realize Grandfather Makar is looking past most of you to where young Adam is now escorting the Lady Iris Dannett up towards the front. And you hear some murmurs and all that from folk in the crowd behind you. Like a few people are kind of stopping and going like, hey, wait a second. Could that be who is that? And this kind of suspense-filled hush kind of comes over the courtyard. And you guys heard your share of murmuring in King's Landing, so you're familiar with the sound of social tension and mild confusion. Those two things came up a lot during your visit to the capital, and they weren't even always your fault. Um,
For a split second, Luke looked like he's going to introduce her, but then he stops and kind of bows his head and defers to Reyna.
Grandfather, may we introduce Lady Iris Dannett, who is now a ward of House Nymeria?
I see. And he gestures, and one of the servants with the plates of bread and stuff comes up, and this servant actually gets on a knee and kind of holds it up, very formally, because like this lady's highborn as hell compared to some crossbowmen and that sort of thing. So he, very kind of formal. One of your household wait staff, kind of gets to a knee and bows a little and holds up the bread, and you can see Iris kind of pause as she reaches out, like thinking about it for a second, before finishing the motion. She takes some bread, dips it in the salt, and takes a very dainty, noble, womanly bite. And then you hear a few relieved sighs from the other like highborn folk up there at the kind of top of the pavilion. And your household maester says, "Well, come then. Let us find you a chamber." And he very gently, just as gently and delicately as Adam did, takes Lady Iris by the arm and starts to guide her away. And grandfather says, "Yes, of course, of course. All of you, please retire to your rooms. Lucaris, we have prepared yours for you. You may find it smaller than you remember, but I assure you we have not moved the walls, grandson. But everyone, baths have been prepared. Dress and clean yourselves. I will await you in my solar, I think." And you kind of can't help but notice, though you're visibly taken aback by a stark change in Woolly Will, who's still a big dude and still looks pretty hale and hearty, but the loss of a leg below the knee is pretty noticeable. Grandfather doesn't look much different, but as always, you kind of feel like he's leaning on that cane a little bit more than he used to. Like as he turns to walk away, you're like, and it's especially stark for Lucaris, who hasn't seen him in quite some time. But even those of you that have only been gone for like the 2 months or less of travel and King's Landing and back, you're like, man, it looks like us being away was really hard on him, right? Like he looks a couple years older than he looked, several weeks ago. And it looks like he's just a little bit slower and stiffer as he turns and heads off with his cane. And it's noticeable as those two old campaigners go kind of limping off together. You're like, it's easy to spot. So everyone is headed off to their chambers. Oh, sorry, we have a finger raised. What is it, Lady Reyna?
Uh, glances at Adam. Just can you make sure that the chests of our monies makes its way either to the solar or to our someplace safe? I don't know if we have a vault, Rusty.
Well, I could have it brought with me, and then I could have it brought to the solar. Then it's then it'll not be out of my sight the whole time. Would that be all right?
That would be perfect. I just want it to be on it, grandfather.
Yeah, no problem. You guys have household knights and stuff that will help, with that, and they will follow Adam's
Yes, I just need a couple of strong men to help me.
As
Power
Adam,
pick.
He's
Adam-
laying
yeah.
on the chest.
yeah, Adam sprawls out on the chest, opening his shirt. And also, one of you bring a fan and some grapes.
This fog's really changed him. He's a lot more comfortable with himself now.
So yeah, it's no problem at all to get a couple of the household riders to assist in hauling that stuff. And you can just, Adam can actually feel kind of cool, just like take these to Grandfather Solar, and he'll get like a yes, my lord, and like that's it's kind of fun, that sort of. I mean, it's not what you were getting back in King's Landing, right? So like, hey, that's right, we are kind of the boss of everyone here. Neat. Also, we're way less likely to get stabbed by a stranger. Like King's Landing has its downsides. So yeah, everyone is like literally waiting on you lot, hand and foot. They are rejoicing at and relieved to just see the lot of you back home, and it's a very clear reminder that this is home. You're not borrowing somebody else's page or squire at a feast in King's Landing where you're guests in the Red Keep. This is home. Like, this is yours. And the people want to look after you and are relieved to see you, and that sort of thing. So it's pretty contrasting sense of comfort and safety. So everyone is off to baths and to getting changed. Let's start with Reyna. What are your comfy around the house clothes here in Dorne, or at least what are you wearing to go to the Solar and meet Grandpa? Like, you might not be in your pajamas or whatever, but
um, well, her casual around the keep clothing is lightweight fabric of soft, like cream and wine colors, and she's wearing like pants that are banded around the ankles. You know, where they flow. It's a flowing fabric, but it's gathered at the ankles so that when she stands, it's like a skirt. But she and the top is made of just wraps of the fabric around her torso and over her shoulders and around the top part of her arms.
cool. So very much going with that flowing Dornish, that we kind of saw on the show a
Yeah,
few
and it's like
times.
it was like cold to me in King's Landing.
Right. Like, this is, so it's not just a difference in fashion for fashion's sake,
It's
but also
being
like,
warm.
it's nice to be. Yeah.
Yeah, feeling like showing skin and not feeling like I'm scandalizing everybody.
All right. How about Bela? What are you getting changed into?
It's not too different from what Reyna just described. Think maybe a little bit closer to how Rey from Star Wars dresses when she was on Jakku.
Yeah.
That's kind of a reference that maybe people don't remember quite as well, but it's it's kind of light but a little bit wrapped as well, and it's sort of like a blouse that doesn't close in the front, but that's because there's like some wraps that kind of go around, and she wears some loose pants that are kind of multiple layers, where it's kind of like a couple of thin layers that kind of provide enough cooling.
Do you also have like the sleeve thing as like a separate garment? Or like you keeping your arms more bare, or like, to me that's the defining thing of most of Rey's outfits are like
the
arm wrappy
wrapped
sleevey things.
arms. Yeah. So on her left arm will be wrapped up to her hands, and in a red sort of wine color, whereas the rest of her is more the tans and beiges with a cinch cinched belt. That's also the wine red.
Nice. How about Luke Karras? We're just gonna go in age order. So yeah, Luke, how's your how are you feeling in this Dornish heat, and how much is it gonna affect what you wear?
He'll be wearing a lot less, and we'll cannot wait to get out of this half plate. I'll tell you that. But he had to wear it for effect. So after kind of taking in the sights, he quickly retires and bathes and removes, obviously the heavy armor. And when we see him again, he is wearing, light silk shirts, very breezy trousers, and the whole thing's kind of connected with a sword belt, and it's largely open and billowy. And a lot of deep red colors to it.
And that leaves young Adam.
Well, Adam is way too warm. He's been in the north for 8 years, and then like the kind of milder but still on the less hot side, King's Landing for a week, and the travelling in between. So I mean, he's done a bit of acclimatizing, but not all of it. And certainly Wyvern's Rest is way hotter than anything he's used to. So he's like going to plunge himself in clean water for as long as possible, so that the air outside will feel less stiflingly hot by comparison. And going for kind of high-waisted breeches and boots, but with like a kind of wrap round kind of tunic. As I guess, think like Oberyn Martell in the show, the kind of thing that kind of wraps around and sort of ties around the waist.
Right.
Kind of going for, like, he'll have invested in some kind of suitable for Dorne clothes before coming south, basically, because he knew this would happen. And he's kind of gone for cheerier colours than his kind of usual. It's been quite muted of late, with the travelling clothes being a bit drab, to not attract bandits, basically.
Right.
So he's gone for like a kind of sunny, kind of turmeric yellow, with like a sky blue, kind of accents along it, so it's kind of nice and summery looking.
Nice. Just one thing I did want to mention about like the stifling air, in the same way that they mentioned that like, Winterfell in the north has like hot springs that keep some of it warm in the off season. Dornish architecture, or at least certainly your Dornish architecture, does have quite a bit more by way of windows and ventilation. So the same way that Dornish clothing is kind of scandalously open by northern standards, so is your architecture. So they are real big on wind flowing through, and not being like stale, at least. So even those of you that have grown unaccustomed to the Dornish climate, it's not awful, because people do live here. So yeah, it's perhaps still less comfortable than what you've gotten used to with the very mild temperatures of King's Landing or what have you. But it's not uninhabitable, right? Despite being in a giant stone castle. And much like House Will, but to a lesser extent, you lot do dig right into like the mountains of the Stoneway. So you do have cooler rooms that are more like recessed and down, where food stores are kept and that sort of thing. So parts of the castle are certainly quite comfortable. One of the parts of the castle that is basically never comfortable emotionally, at least not physically, is Grandfather Makar's Solar, where everyone is headed next. It's kind of half a 50s sitcom dad's study and half the principal's office. And
Combining
and,
two really
and like,
intense
yeah, and half like a war room in the Pentagon, because he is a noble lord of a house in Westeros. So it's also where like military stuff happens sometimes. So
So thirds then rather than halves.
no, it's all halves. He makes it work. It is it is 150% business all the time.
Okay.
Oh,
So yeah, you guys meet up in Grandfather Makar's Solar. The last time most of you were here, of course, was just before leaving for King's Landing, when you all got little stacks of gold coins to take with you that would hopefully go forth and get drunk and multiply. And you all got kind of your etiquette lessons and reminders that like King's Landing is fucking awful. Please don't die. Just the normal pep talk before a road trip.
yeah.
Um,
Sure.
and this time the mood seems to be much the same. Grandfather is back behind his desk, sitting there, and that look on his face could be the look that any of you got anytime that you ever got in trouble. It's just that same kind of resting lord face that he has with that strong Valyrian blood, that just looks kind of faintly disapproving of everything he sees, unless he's going out of his way to look otherwise. Um, and reassuringly, as you arrive, he does go out of his way to look otherwise. So you get it. You see, as you're stepping through that threshold, you could be 8 years old again and caught stealing something, or whatever. Um, but it almost immediately softens. Like just as you get that familiar knot in your belly of getting in trouble, you can see that your grandfather did miss you, and your grandfather was worried about you. And here, away from the prying eyes of the gathered House Nymerian, he can let that show a little bit more. But also with him is Woolly Will, sitting again on a faintly oversized chair that barely fits him. He is a guy with a lot of mass. You may remember in my head, he's kind of acted by Brendan Gleeson, right? So he's just kind of a big dude, not necessarily a burly dude, but just kind of a big fella. Your grandfather, of course, is played by Christopher Plummer. So he's got that old white haired, dignified look that he's had his whole life because of Valyrian. But yeah, Woolly Will is there again, and he's got his bad half a leg propped up, and is kind of rubbing the knee like it aches after even just a short journey. And that's who is awaiting you there in the Solar. Your grandfather, looking pleased to see you, and quirking one eyebrow as though waiting for explanations. And then Woolly Will, the hairy hedge knight, who is, yes, helping himself to some Dornish snacks. There's also a little platter of treats over there that he's eating with one hand while rubbing his aching leg with the other, kind of like the last time you saw him.
He's just gonna, now that he's only got one leg, he's gonna like fluff up even more. It's gonna be like King Robert. I go right to grandfather and like lay my hand on his forearm and give him a kiss on the cheek, and just say, we are so pleased to be home, grandfather.
He will present his cheek to you with a small smile, to make it easier, and reaches up and gives your arm a little squeeze, and holds on a little bit longer than he used to. You think, and you can kind of feel a little bit of a shake in his hand, and there's a lot of emotion in that squeeze. And then he looks expectantly towards like Bela. He's just gonna go in age order.
Yep. So I've brought Sunfire with me, that old family Valyrian steel spear, and I will also do the same thing that Raina did. I'll give him a nice kiss on the forehead and say, "We return home victorious, with many tales of battle."
My girls, hail and hearty too. Oh, but look at these boys. Come, come.
And Luke steps forward. Grandfather, it's good to be home.
Will you make an old man stand to shake your hand, Sir Lucaris? Or will you give your grandfather a kiss?
I will give a kiss and a hug, grandfather, if that is okay with you.
Yes. He
And he
leads
smiles
up
and gives him a hug and gives him a kiss.
uh, yeah, you get a little bit longer squeeze also. And this he does offer you a handshake as you're pulling away, but he does like that warrior one where you clasp forearms
Yeah,
type of
return
thing.
it.
You can't help but notice his forearm feels thinner than you remember. Your hands are bigger than the last time you ever touched him, but yeah, he's aged quite a bit since you've been away. But he's still got some strength in that grip, and you get the feeling he's kind of showing it off as much as he can to try to impress his young knightly grandson. Uh, and then he looks to Adam.
Well, Adam will go up to embrace his grandfather.
He will gladly take said hug.
And, well, we return not just victorious, but with so, something that I think you're going to like. And I'll Admiral has had a couple of knights carry the chest of gold, but wait outside the door. So he'll call them in now to come and dump it on the floor and open it. So they're like, sha sha.
Okay, they will do so. Excuse me.
Shine like,
Yeah. Yeah, and it's a big mixture. Some of it are in those trade bars, which again I decided as about Kit Kat sized. And some of them are those. Some of them are gold coins.
4 finger or 2 finger?
The Kit Kat. Well, just like the individual bar, right? Like one finger of Kit
Oh, I
Kat
see. Okay.
is like one bar. Yeah, but they're not. Yeah, they're not like together and breakable. It's just like one little trade bar. Sorry, for a second I was like, do they have different sized Kit Kats
Yes.
over there? I didn't notice that.
Yeah, we've got 3 different sizes in the UK.
Okay, we're moving to Scotland.
That's what I've been saying for a while, Felicia. But yeah, so it's some of the big chunky trade bars. Some of it is gold coins. Some of it is silver. You get the distinct impression that Lyramopatis kept the aesthetics of the chest in mind when having it loaded for you. He's like, yeah, no, let's just put a big layer of silver on the bottom so it all looks better, But yeah, it is quite the impressive kind of jangle.
Yes.
And
sorry, go ahead.
Woolly Will hoots and slaps his belly in appreciation, which is the old hedge knight clap. And Grandfather Makar lifts an eyebrow, looking kind of impressed.
That grandfather is 3,328 dragons worth of gold. And some silver.
And brought back by only 4 dragons. You've done the work of many grandchildren. Good. I had received word from good Magister Illyrio that you lot had won an impressive amount, but excellent. But enough of this. You brought several things of import. I noticed you returned with more people than you left with.
Well, yes, grandfather. we have grown the ranks of House Nymerian. We have gained men at arms who we hired, and I think most of them plan to stay on here and swear to the house. And we brought Lady Alisane Mormont from Bear Island with us. She, I'm not sure how to qualify her. She's currently a guest, but she also could serve as a knight, or not a knight, but a man at arms. I'm not sure really how to classify her.
We would like to find a place for her in the household.
Yes.
Yes,
That's
of
what
course.
we're trying to say.
The ferocity of the women of Bear Island has reached even us down here in Dorne. We will speak with her later, and you notice he transitions to like the lordly, sincere kind of serious tone. We will speak to her later of oaths and payment and the like, but surely another sworn sword would not do us any harm.
Probably be a sworn morning star, but she is quite fearsome. And
Tales of Bear Island are not exaggerated.
exactly,
Yes.
they are everything the tales have said. And we also bring a royal class baker who would also serve as an excellent nanny for when we start producing grandchildren or great grandchildren.
And here Woolly Will is like, she's built for a nursemaiden, my lordship. Lady Bessa, I trusted her with young Oris, which is how I suspect she crossed paths with you lot, but look at the size of the bountiful tracts of land and such. And she's got a great big heart. Big heart. My lord.
Does
And he gives Adam that comically oversized wink after talking about the size of her heart.
And,
Yeah, Adam is just going to sort of stare and then look away. Yeah, she's a very nice woman.
Sir Woolly Will, we bring home a newly minted knight, and Sir Oris Waters the Aurochs.
What? Duh. What? What?
That about
That-
king himself.
Well, how about that then? Wait, what? Whom?
King Robert Baratheon. Him.
He'd have no other. He would sound an insult to be knighted by anybody but you. However, he would accept the one who gave you your knighthood. And so,
He gets very, like, unhealthily red in the face after a wave of white washes over his face first.
Right.
Like, the blood drains, and then it returns because he's in the middle of a heart attack, right? Like, it's that sort of like, what? Yeah, and he gives an almost comically wide-eyed stare to your grandfather, and he goes, Makar, I told you the lad shouldn't have gone. 7 hells, and is he well? You're all well.
One
He
moment.
is immediately pretty panicked on your.
Everyone is well. Everyone we left with except our cousin. Well, we didn't leave with our cousin, except our cousin Will is well. Now, neither Sir Oris, nor His Majesty are aware of what it seems everyone else is. So they were both in ignorance all throughout this entire proceeding.
But 7 hells, that doesn't mean the rest of the damned city was.
Well,
Who else saw them together? Who else was there?
Okay, we have to tell this story from the beginning. Do you want Oris to come and be with us during this?
He looks like near panicky, right? Like, and it's kind of unsettling. You've only seldom seen him serious before at all, but to see him actually concerned about something, and it's that sort of helplessly concerned about a thing that's already done, right? Like, it's having an anxiety attack about that dumb thing you said when you were 12, right? Like, it's that look of just like, but he's like he's finding out after the fact this thing he was terrified of happened, and and yet people aren't dead. But holy shit, it almost happened then. And right, he's got that look.
Have a
He
drink.
reaches over, and he actually snatches up the goblet from Lord Makar's desk. Like he just grabs it and starts drinking. And Makar does not stop him. Your your Targaryen blooded grandfather lets this hedge knight take his goblet. Um, and you see that grandfather's lips are pursed again. Uh, and his face is that kind of impassive stone lordly look, um, that is what he does to hide when he is angry or sad or may have made a mistake about something. It's basically any time he had like a negative reaction to or around any of you, he got this scary, almost faceplate, right? Like very guarded, formal expression. And he just leans back in his chair and steeples his fingers while Woolly Will is drinking messily, and just gulping. And you see one of the knights that brought in the gold scurries outside and is calling for someone to bring some more wine.
If
And
I
now
may,
we will cut to story time with whomever is going to take point. You have grandfather's complete attention, and Woolly Will is looking wild-eyed at you lot over the brim of the goblet. So, sounded like Lucaris was gonna start at least.
he was just going to interject with, if I may, by the time we learned of his parentage, it would have raised more questions than not have him attend. And then I'll defer to Rada, I think, for the rest of the story.
It was eventful in King's Landing. We actually came across uh, murder on the road before we even were there, and this was part of a plot that was created by House Lugas's youngest son,
The
Orton.
and Woolly Will goes, "What? A Lugus was? Oh, I, the little one. Go ahead.
Yes, the little one.
What did they have against Oris?
They had nothing. This has nothing to do with
I
Oris.
th-
Oris got
yeah, I think
caught
I
up
think
in this because he was with us.
yeah, I think Rena's starting at the beginning, whereas you two are expecting her to jump straight into the Oris relevant content.
Grandfather Makar has not responded. He's just listening and watching each of you as it unfolds. But you certainly get the feeling that Woolly Will is feeling very Oris centric. But this Woolly Will's Solar. So
I'm trying to reduce his anxiety by directing his attention to other parts of the story first.
I'll calm him down by talking about the plotting and the murders. Westeros, everybody.
um, and anyway, it did become an ongoing sort of conspiracy to smear our reputations in King's Landing, all throughout the week of the tourney, which culminated in a public trial by 7 to prove our innocence in accusations.
Grandfather still doesn't respond, but Adam, you do notice that your letter is one of the several things on his, spread out across his desk right now. The letter that you sent him about the trial is
Yeah.
there and laid out.
Well, yeah, I would want to address that, but I'm also not going to like interrupt the heir to the house while she's talking.
Um, we did. We participated in the joust and did rather well. Sir Vanon was with us at that time, and he also did very well. We participated in the melee, and King Robert took the field as in one of the teams with
You get a cough sputter from Woolly Will. You notice that grandfather's like fingertip tapping on his steepled fingers, like, yeah, okay. And then he like, but it freezes him up for a second at that news. Neither of them like openly interrupt, but yeah, Woolly Will almost dies again, is where I'm.
And that particular, it was called to a halt by Sir Barrister Selmy, who uh, saw that it was us versus His Majesty.
Well, it was John
And-
Aaron.
And oh, was it John Aaron? It
Yeah.
was Aaron. It was the Hand of the King. And we, but we were declared the de facto winners since you can't beat the king.
We certainly tried, though.
No, we did try. We didn't hold back, and he did respect that. I mean, he did call us dragon fuckers a few times, but we did. I think we did.
Oh,
rather
it's all coming out now.
I think we did rather well in our interactions with His Highness, and while we frustrated him no end, he also seemed quite entertained by our martial prowess, which always impresses him. There are many stories that we can tell. Adam?
What? Or do you want me to pick this up?
I would like you to hit the points that you consider more important.
Right. Well, I think since for the sake of Will's heart, I think I'm going to address the Horus matter. Because it's it was a bit of a disaster, to be honest. I would much rather we had been informed beforehand, or our friends in King's Landing not informed, because it left us a little bit on the back foot. We met Lady Olenna a number of times, and it was actually her that told us that she knew who Horus's parents were.
At the first like pause, Woolly Will is gonna cut you off, like sputtering. So that means I kind of have to. But he's gonna growl at your grandfather, like, "Damn it, Makar! I told you, we can't keep half a secret, just all or nothing. And I told you nothing would be better." Your grandfather does not rise to the bait. He gestures for Adam to keep talking, and just leaves Woolly Will over there, like sputtering and red in the face.
I think that's how most of their talks go.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I just saw your comment, Rusty, and I'm right.
I'm certain I don't know what you mean, Ash.
Right. Anyway, once the spluttering has stopped, I'll continue. To be honest, I had been starting to suspect something, given that we also met one Maya Stone, who bears a striking resemblance to Horus. So Lady Olenna really just confirmed what some of us were starting to suspect anyway. And then instructed us not to tell anyone and to keep him away from the king. Understandably, though being told something with that magnitude and then having to sit on it was uncomfortable, to say the least. And as a personal aside, I disliked the requirement to betray my friend's trust. Anyhow, at a feast that the king held by personal invitation, Lord Stannis and Lord John Arryn both approached Horus. Myself and Lucaris went over to intercept, as we suspected that things might go wrong. However, we were able to convince them that Oris just wanted to earn his spurs honestly and live a normal life away from the capital. They seemed satisfied that he was no threat, and to the best of my knowledge, did not interact with him beyond that point. And that was everything for a while. But then I confess I found it more and more difficult to keep the information from Oris, especially when people were basically constantly talking about it in front of him like he wasn't there. So I, on our last night before we left King's Landing, I tried to privately, quietly offer him the choice of whether he wanted to know what that was about, and he got very upset by the implication that everyone but him knew. So he's not in the best of humours at the moment. But there are at least 2 members of the small council who know the truth about him, which means that there's probably more like 4 members of the small council that know about him. But we think that I think that we managed to convince them to not scrutinise him too much as long as he stays out of the capital.
You hear a small whoosh as Woolly Will is taking a breath and like getting ready to start again. And then Grandfather cuts him off with that quiet voice. That's again his very serious voice. He goes, "What of the Queen? Did she approach you?"
Not at any point. I briefly approached to give Princess Marcella a name day gift. The Queen made some rather unkind remarks, but other than that, didn't speak to any of us.
And we did not press it with her. We stayed.
No, certainly.
We tried to stay out of her line of sight as much as possible.
So neither the usurper or his queen seemed to connect anything.
No, there didn't seem to be any shred of recognition. Even the short while that we were face to face with His Grace being introduced, he didn't seem. I mean, he seemed friendly towards Oris, but did not seem to have a spark of recognition there. If there was one, he didn't show it.
Oblivious was the word I would use.
And indeed, knighting him, he seemed no more the wiser. And that was after his brother and the Hand had spoken to him. So I would imagine that if they had spoken to him of it, he might have at least looked at him differently.
Let's not forget that Oris won the Squires tournament and received some attention from that as well. But Her Majesty was not present for those events.
She has remarkably little interest in the most of the tourney.
But still, Makar, John and Stannis, it's only lucky that Renly wasn't there too, and oh, 7 hells, man.
I wanted to answer real fast. Fortunately, the Queen was angry enough about Maya Stone's attendance at the dinner to pay any attention to anything else.
Correct.
I mean, she didn't like say stuff to y'all, but that was just a quick kind of behind the scenes note there in chat, especially. Woolly Will.
Oh, I just now realized you said the exact same thing in the chat. I'm sorry.
Okay, I thought you were just like repeat. Yeah, it's fine.
No.
Woolly Will continues to kind of bluster and I told you so-ish at your grandfather, who is studiously ignoring him and listening to you lot instead, the way that Storm's End ignores storms, right? Like grandfather's just sitting there like impassive and listening raptly. He goes, and then He kind of lets silence fall again. He goes, "And your talks with the Lady Olena, how did those go?"
She, oh, sorry, Rainer, you want to take this?
I would like to say that Lady Olena is probably the single most formidable person we met in our trip to Kingsland. And our interactions with her were sum total good.
Yes, she and Sir Garland were very gracious.
Sir Garland is a dream and was absolutely a pleasure to
Steady on.
interact with.
Shame he's currently married.
Lady Olena was quite fascinating. I can see what you saw of her, grandfather.
Oh. Adam just goes bright pink instantly.
Grandfather Makar's granite features crack with just a bit of a smile. He goes, "I do not think you saw exactly what I saw in her, Luke. Unless the stories I've heard of your time in the capital are entirely true. But Willis was
Wow.
not there. Garland was?
Garland was. Sir Garland was.
What of Sir Loris? The Knight of Flowers?
He was
Neither
no,
Willis
he
nor
and
Lawrence were
not there.
present.
I see. Now then, continue.
Oris did win the Squire's Joust, which brought him to the forefront of attention. So we had to bull forward with that, blithely, with all innocence and ignorance. So that is what we.
Except we were neither innocent nor ignorant.
Yes. I believe that was the best thing we could have done at the time, because to act suspiciously would have caused suspicion and would have drawn attention of a different sort.
Wooly Will interject. Which of you lot told him to fight in the Squire's Joust?
I did.
He wanted to, and we wanted him.
I told the boy not to.
If he
Told them not to.
I'd rather he blamed me than Oris, right?
Damn it, Makehard. See? You see what happened? I told you, not within 100 leagues of that damn city. But no, we send him there, and like a moth to the flame, or just right to the damn king's face. Damn the usurper. And then he falls into like muttering and growling and, very red in the face.
Wooly will call him the usurper. I raise an eyebrow. I hear this.
That is a first, by the way. Like, just out of character note, he has never. Wooly Will was knighted by Robert, and so it's the first time that he has let slip anything negative about the king. So go ahead.
Certainly sending him in so ill-prepared socially was not the best idea. Especially because you sort of, with all due respect, Sir Will told him some quite devastating information and then sent him on his way without giving him any space to ask questions or actually learn the whole truth. And I don't think that's been good for him.
Half a secret, Makar. What did I tell you? I knew the Royces would be there, and I knew that they might find you lot or find him, and I wouldn't send the lad up there completely unarmed. He needed to know who his mother was, damn it. And just, I didn't want him to go. Makar, you mark that. I didn't want him, and I told you so.
Well, he's been, so there's no undoing that.
Once it's made, we cannot unmake it.
The situation is fucked and there's no way to unfuck it.
But did they, though? The Royces? The Royces of Runestone. How were they?
They
Well, they tried to get Oris to throw the final joust, which was refused. At our advice, because it was a bit of a, it was something of a feeble reason anyway. Other than that, they were, I suppose, Bronzion was quite sort of stiff and, well, understandably, I suppose. But they didn't cause us any trouble the way that the Ironwoods or the Kettleblacks or the Freys did. They were restrained, at least.
They were. Yeah, there was a distance that they kept between us and them. One of them, the middle son,
It's the second son, Robar, was the one that approached you guys.
Yeah, he's a knight, right? Sir Robar is the one who approached us about Oris possibly throwing the Squire's Joust to allow their youngest to be able, because he was taking the black after this.
They wanted him to be knighted before he went to the, but they did it anyway, so it's fine.
They wanted him to have some win before he went away to the wall, and they didn't demand it. They just Robar just asked if he would consider it, and he did consider it, and he chose not to.
I also tilted against Andar Roy, so we had some, one way or the other, we had some communication with them.
Yes, I took Waymar a gift before he left for the wall to show that there was no hard feeling.
So there were no challenges, though. No blood oaths or fighting.
No.
Well, and you see him kind of slump. Well, that at least went well enough. Just 7 hells make hard.
I mean, I think Oris is angry at them as well, because of what happened to his mother, or rather, what was allowed to happen to his mother. But they certainly did not seem to bear any animosity towards us.
They were rather, like I said, just distant and polite and stiff.
Royce-like.
Royce-like, yes.
Woolly Will starts to drink again, and Grandfather just looks expectantly at the lot of you to continue, or whatever. Sorry, I'm just trying to let you guys set the tone and stuff. So, but go ahead.
Sir Vannon met who it turns out is married to the patriarch of the Kettleblack clan.
Grandfather clears his throat. I'm aware of the situation. He gestures broadly at his desk, and you think you see the Blackwood sigil, like, on the ink seal type of thing. He goes, I have been kept abreast of that. We need speak of Vanen no more. Things unfolded with your bastard as they needed to. He doesn't sound happy about it, necessarily, but sounds like he was already in on that.
Right. I feel that I should address the rather urgent letter that I sent before before we had our the trial by 7. I understand it probably would have come across as quite panicked.
A matter of dire urgency, I recall.
Well, the matters were unfolding very rapidly, and I had reason to believe that Wyvern's Rest could have been in danger. Thankfully, it was not. Though I feel we should be on guard for retaliations from House Ironwood.
Yes. So
I killed Archibald Ironwood.
In the trial by 7.
Yes, in the trial by 7, not just on the
Yeah,
street
he
randomly.
he lifted an eyebrow at first and then gives a little nod at the in the trial part.
And Adam Dannett died after a duel of honor between himself and me when he first accused us of attacking his small folk, which was part of Orton's plot.
Yes,
Adam,
he'd been slowly poisoning Lord Dannet.
Indeed, I received, I believe, the broad strokes of that situation from my nephew. It's his affectionate nickname for Prince Doran Martell. Um,
Right.
but I could not help but notice that you also brought the Lady Iris with you.
after the conclusion of the trial by 7, His Majesty decreed us innocent, because in the eyes of the gods and people, and gifted us with the marriage rights for Lady Iris Dannett.
And with the death of Adam, then the Dannett lands are ours again.
Correct.
I see. That's what you get. You get a That's all.
Okay.
She's been through a lot, so I would strongly advise that we go gently with her and don't frighten her.
Yes.
She certainly doesn't trust us, but we have been trying to take things slowly with her so that perhaps she may come to trust us eventually.
I
And,
believe.
Go ahead.
I believe that once we win her trust, she will completely be an asset for our house and not a trial.
I've also given her my nightly word no harm will come to her.
She's had our bread and salt, and she is our bannerman again. Of course, no harm will come to her. We will revise some irrigation efforts, and we will discuss marriage potentials soon.
She's been
7 Hills. It's all happening
lied
so
to.
soon.
I paused for a moment.
Did you hear his mutter, Luke?
Yeah.
Yeah, I paused. I hear that.
It is he says we will discuss her marriage proposal or marriage potential soon, and then under his breath he sighed, it's all happening so soon, he says to the indecipherable pile of papers and maps on his desk. So go ahead,
Yeah,
Luke.
big mood, Grandpa.
Luke just adds, she's been lied to and taken advantage of quite a bit. So that's her current state.
I see.
I rode
And,
her carriage over all the way from King's Landing in the hope that my non-threatening presence would help her sort of get used to us.
I'd also like to add that her brother, while he was a pawn in this plot, he did die heroically trying to defend and avenge his small folk. He had a fight he had no business fighting. He had no chance to win, and he still died on his feet, although largely to the poison, but trying that. So
His remains have been sent to House Ironwood.
I think among their people and her especially, and just in general, if we can find in the future some way to honor him and what happened, I think would go a long way.
Yes, it was the Ironwoods that he swore fealty to, so I suppose they should have his remains first, at least.
Yes.
Nonsense and distractions. Fine. What else happened? Did the Starks come down from Winterfell and fall before your spears? or perhaps Jaime Lannister was bested as well.
Probably
Neither of
one
those things.
afternoon.
The Kingslayer did not take up arms in the melee or the joust. We did defeat Lady Bela. Would you like to tell your story?
Sure. There are several events that happened during the week itself for the tournament. We have several victories to talk about. I'll start with the joust. The three of us, myself, Sir Luke, and Sir Vannon, performed valiantly. Each of them progressing and winning 2 rounds, and myself winning 4 rounds in the joust, falling eventually to Sir Garland, who ended up winning the whole event.
Come on, Bella, just tell him about the bit with the King's Guards.
It's the best part.
The best part.
All right. Well, so several of us, namely, oh crap, who was it that?
You beat Sir Boris
Yeah.
Blount and
Yeah, I beat Sir Boris
and Sir
Blount.
Baron Trant.
And Sir
No,
Mary Trent.
No.
No,
You beat Marin Trant.
Yeah.
Blunt was
Vannon.
All right, okay, sorry.
Yeah, I was getting those mixed up. Which one that Vannon fought? Yeah, so Sir
Remember,
Vannon,
it's Sir Marin can't.
Sir
Yes, as the bard will sing it.
Vannon
henceforth.
defeated Sir Blount, and I defeated Sir Marin Trant, and some of the local bards happened to devise a song to commemorate such an event, which is well, it's a nice song, but that's not the important part here. We did embarrass the Kingsguard a little bit in the tournament, in the jousting tournaments, which was a high mark for us to come up there and do. As mentioned previously, Oris, well, to be frank, Oris didn't belong in the Squire's joust. Just if you were there to watch it, it was not a competition. They might as well have been children compared to Oris, Sir Oris. And
Well, Lydia Lennon did refer to it as our giant bastard beating up small children.
and that is not an exaggeration. That is exactly how his joust went. So he is to be commended.
That's why I told the boy not to fight. I knew what would happen. I just this whole thing.
Sir Will, when you see him, be proud. You should be proud of him. He did really, really well, and all of us are proud of him. And if you give him any shit for it, you'll answer to me.
Of course he did well. I know how the boy can fight. He beat me once. I know he would be fine. I just didn't want him to do it because I knew he'd bloody win, and then they'd be spotted. And of course, Robert watched the damn jousts. And, her.
Next, there was the horse riding competition, which is, while not so violent, it was still enjoyable and a hard ride. They did not make it an easy course to ride in, and I attribute the terrain that we have around Wyvern's Rest and our mountains for preparing myself and the rest of us for that. We did not win, however, Sir Vannon came in third, and I was a horse length behind him.
Quick rewind. Sir Vannon actually won that one.
Oh, did he?
And
Okay.
like you were second, and like Raina was third.
Oh, okay.
So like, yeah, it was all
So
Yeah, it was, yeah. Venom
Rewind
took
those few
that one. Yeah.
sentences.
Yep, no
And
problem.
say,
It
I'm
was a
proud
long
to.
time ago.
Yeah. I'm proud to say that Zervanin won the competition, and I was behind him by a horse, with Lady Reyna shortly behind me. We performed very well. Moving on from there, I am extremely proud of young Adam here, who was the best archer at the competition. He performed extremely well, and I'm sure Aunt Elia will be enamored with how his skills have come along. And he,
Thank you, Bela.
but seriously, you should see the bow that he won. Not to take
Beautiful.
your thunder from you, but it is made of dragon bone, and it is gorgeous.
Yes, ever has the usurper been generous with the coin of his people. And he reaches out, grandfather reaches out, and he goes, just a little tap, tap, like quickly on a thing on his map, this indecipherable mass of his desk. You think you see the Tyrell seal near that tap, tap, but he just points like it should be the most obvious thing in the world. And he goes, Adam the Archer, I believe it went.
It did.
Yes.
Indeed, word of your victory already reached us, grandson. Congratulations. You did Wyvern's Rest proud.
Thank you, grandfather.
Moving on from there, and the conclusion of the tournament itself for the Nymerians was the Grand Melee, and that was quite chaotic, if I do say so. We fought hard with our team of myself and Reyna, Sir Luke, Sir Vannon, Nathan Lugas of the same Lugas clan from before, as well as Sir Will of Will. And
Nathan seemed to have no concept of his brother's plot, I should add, and was fast friends with us until the plot occurred.
Yes. And at the time it was Squire Oris, now Sir Oryx. And we lasted very well through my leadership, keeping us focused and fighting as a team, covering each other's backs. And we were lucky enough to fight off multiple groups in the melee, finally coming down to 3 of us against the king himself. And it was Lady Reyna, myself, and Sir Oris. And that was quite the battle to be seen. Even the 3 of us honestly weren't really a match for His Majesty. We held on for a while, and Oris got a really, really hard hit against that signature crown that the king wears, and broke it.
Willie Will almost choked on his wine again. He
broke it
bloody
and then
hit
knocked
him.
it clean off.
He
Yes,
He
several
hit him
times.
Oh, yes.
twice.
Loved it.
Yes, we've brought it home.
Yes, we have that crown, by the way.
Oh, it's a helmet.
Helmet, sorry. We have the helmet, by the way.
Yeah, but it did have like a golden band around the top, and then the antlers. So it's how kings do in the movies and crap.
Yeah.
And
then the king struck Reyna very hard and knocked her several yards back and onto her backside.
I could have landed in his seat. If I had arced better.
He'd have liked that.
You notice that neither Grandfather nor Woolly Will laughs at that jest. Maybe they just
Yeah.
like, you guys fought the fucking king, so
Yeah.
maybe they're not finding a lot of humor in this.
Yeah.
Um,
I also got
they-
a couple smaller hits in on the king. He is a very, very skilled fighter.
Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
And it was about that time that a combination of John Aaron and Barristan Selmy stepped in to put an end to the melee for fear that something might go awry.
Correct.
Partly because I'm sure they didn't completely trust us.
And
And
we're walking a fine line.
yeah.
Oh, I think Meryn Trant wanted you to carry on just so he could have an excuse to wade in, but we didn't give him that. It turned it. Now I know it sounds like we absolutely battered the king, and they kind of did a little bit, but it's fine because
He was
because
enjoying
Lord
every
Aaron
moment
like
of it.
Lord Aaron made sure it didn't get out of hand. Everything's fine. No one is upset with us on that front.
And
Everything's
I feel like the way we handled it earned us a little respect in the eyes of the Usurper King.
I think so too.
Grandfather gives a small nod, and John Aaron has always been clever, and Sir Barristan's honor, of course, is beyond repute. I am glad they did not use it as an excuse for worse to happen.
Mhm.
We were
Yeah.
watching our step.
The king was not so happy that they interceded. However, the final scene was the king standing there with myself and Oris in fighting positions, and I'm sure that imagery is not lost upon all involved.
Yes. And I got up.
Yes, yeah. Reyna was not out for the fight.
Which again was, that was the most important thing to me, was that he see that we respected him and his position without being obsequious and sniveling, but that we meet him. And I love like Grandpa, like
Woolly Will kind of gives you a like all of his emotional concern about all of this goes away for a second, and he's just like, okay, but like, what was the score in the Super Bowl before the bombs went off, right? Like, it's that sort of thing where he just kind of like he's still upset about other things, but he kind of can't help but ask, and he just kind of goes, what did he hit you with?
That
What do you
huge
think?
fucking hammer.
The hammer or a hammer?
Oh. The hammer.
Huh.
Sorry, I just thought of Captain Hammer.
Look at Ash's face. The hammer.
I'm fine.
The legendary hammer. Yes.
And you can see Grandfather actually exchanges a glance with Woolly Will at that news that Rada got hit by like the hammer, and that sort of thing. So, yeah.
I take it the subtext of that is the one he killed Prince Rhaegar with.
Yes.
Yeah, like that. And it was the hammer
It is
that he
his
brought
hammer.
into the melee. They had nominally wrapped it in like some quilted lengths of cloth and shit. Like they,
With the
yeah,
hammer.
like it's still
Yeah.
still Robert Baratheon swinging around an anvil on the end of a Valyrian steel stick. So they're like, no, it's cool, guys. We put some bubble wrap on there. You'll be fine.
Yeah.
I think like yeah, Adam's not going to like add to that of they're like and like I was also close to something that killed a member of our family.
So after all of this, when we were at the final feast about to be receiving our prizes. Everyone was going to be given their prizes for their wins over the course of the week. And this is when Oris
Don't you mean Orton?
Orton chose to bring Lady Iris out and make the accusations against House Nymerian.
Yeah, he was very much using her as a puppet.
And and his sister Marita is not blameless in this either. She clumsily attempted to twist his plots to benefit herself. She did not want to be married again.
Yeah, she arranged for her betrothed to die in the melee.
And then blamed us for it.
Grandfather kind of raises an eyebrow towards Woolly Will, and he goes, the one they already called the widow, that Marita Lugas? It is.
Yes.
This was her fourth, you recall.
One and the same.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then grandfather gives a little nod, and goes, was the queen there at this feast when this Orton Lugas leveled the accusations and tried to bring our house down?
Yes.
Was Cersei there? Did she react? Did she seem in on it? Was it retaliation?
No. She was there, but she seemed completely disinterested in the thing.
I mean, she was interested in.
Oh, come on, Rin. She was bored and on her way to being drunk.
Luke raises another eyebrow at this line of questioning.
She didn't. It's like she noticed, but it was below her to get involved. I seem to remember her making an aside, a comment that was supposed to be private in the way that you make a private public comment. But it was mostly just snideness, and then that was all she did.
Very well. Good.
And so then we had to do a trial by 7, which was a historic event. And again, we needed to construct a team of 7. And at this point,
Sir Garland was wounded.
Yeah, Sir Garland was wounded.
So was unable to help.
Joust. And we needed Oris's strength and stability and loyalty on that field.
Stability. That's not a word I would associate with him, but okay.
But we needed him on that field for us. But he was not a knight. And he was not a directly accused party such as Lady Bela, which allowed Lady Bela to participate. So I decided that we were going to get him knighted so that we would win. Because, gods, you've seen the man. He's formidable. And I wanted that on our side. But he said the only way that he would accept a knighting, the only man who could do it, if it wasn't going to be Willy Will, was the man who knighted Willy Will. So Luke made that happen.
Here, you see that Willy Will looks embarrassed, maybe even ashamed at that turn in the conversation. He's a deep, beet red again, but it's not the apoplectic deep red that he's been for most of the evening, or we'll say it's mid-afternoon. It's a guilty look, an ashamed look.
Luke gives him a knowing look, as if to add with his eyes quotes around man who knighted Woolly Will.
Bunny rabbit ears.
And then grandfather speaks up and goes, and this trial, that is when your cousin fell.
Yes.
Yes, grandfather.
The last trial by 7 killed my uncle Baelor. This trial by 7 killed my, out of character, sorry, one second, great nephew. He would
Yeah,
know.
thank you.
Would it be great nephew? Does that sound right?
That sounds
Um,
correct.
Probably
Yeah,
just
sorry.
say nephew.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah. So, the last trial by 7 killed my uncle Baelor. This one killed my great nephew. At times, I think I am blessed to have only lived and fought between them. History books, he says, kind of scornfully.
Speaking of history books, I'm the first woman to have fought in a trial by 7.
Woolly Will gives a little snort. And probably the first woman to beat a Kingsguard knight either. Trent.
Probably. They don't
At
keep
least in
records on
public.
that, though.
But the
I hope it's in the white book.
right.
Marin Trant got ass kicked by a girl.
Then Barristan Selmy writes a footnote with a hot link to like a YouTube video of a minstrel singing the song.
Yes.
I love it.
Um,
But
it was in the trial by 7, though, that I killed Archibald Ironwood. He was the accuser for their side, and the accusation was that we had killed their small folk. So I defended our house's honor in that regard.
Indeed. And his cousin, this Archibald's cousin, Cletus, their heir, was he there? Did he fight?
he did.
He did not fight, no.
So, they risked the bald one and not the heir. A feint, then, a test.
Yes, it certainly seemed that it seemed to me that Lord Ironwood did not want to risk his heir.
You might say the same thing for us, somewhat. I am not the heir either. I am the house champion as much as Archibald was.
Our choice was made a little differently in that regard, though. Though I do recall at one point saying I didn't want you all to die.
Indeed, I was a directly accused party in
Correct.
this for
Yes.
having
And-
supposedly poisoned Lord Langley Woods.
He was just Sir Langley.
Was it Sir Langley Woods who was betrothed to Maritza Lugas?
just for-
A northern house, I believe, of
Yes.
no major repute.
Correct. Langley,
Huh.
Sir Langley was not of any great repute,
He was a decent enough man.
but he was a decent man.
Their house was still victims of the same plot we were.
Mm.
Correct.
Persod actually seemed to care about Marita, which was a shame.
As we had created our team to take the field in a trial, I decided that I would enlist a champion to stand for me so that we didn't risk the heir, and because I am the weakest martially on the field out of the three of us. And Adam is our youngest.
Out of character, and he isn't a knight.
And he
Also,
isn't a
also
knight.
not a knight, also a cripple, and also not great with a sword.
So I sought the assistance of a champion, Lord Beric Dondarrion.
Grandfather quirks an eyebrow it's a little weird that you guys got a Stormlander to help out. So it's not a complete surprise for a bit of an eyebrow quirk.
Right.
And he served very well and became a close ally of us. In fact, we stayed a night in what was the name of the castle?
Blackhaven.
Blackhaven. Yeah.
Blackhaven on our way back home. And we were hosted there most generously.
And grandfather speaks up. So, Bela, Luke, this lightning lord of Blackhaven, Sir Oris Waters, the Will of Will, that it's only 5.
Yeah.
And
Out
he
of
looks
character, my mind's blanking on who I asked already.
Okay, out of character, the two that are left are Sir Lynn Corbray and Sir Balin Swan.
That's right. All right.
But grandfather kind of glances around the lot of you.
So I asked Sir Balin Swan to be our 6th member of the team.
And he accepted.
Indeed.
Did.
He said he was happy to assist because he could tell that justice wouldn't be done if he didn't.
A second son, this Balin, isn't he? And then grandfather just kind of glances around the room a little. Out of character, you guys believe so. And Wooly Will gives him a nod also. There. Very well. That made 6. Your 7th?
Sorry. So go ahead, Felicia.
The 7th was enlisted on my command because I did not want him on the other team.
Yes. We persuaded Sir Lynn Corbray to be the 7th, as Reyna says, to at the very least ensure that he wasn't on the other team.
Because a man like him would want to participate, and I did not want it to be on the other side.
At the Lynn Corbray, as those words leave your mouth, half a mouthful of wine goes up Wooly Will's nose, and he almost dies again. And as he kind of half chuckles,
Sorry,
half
Will.
sputters, he just puts the wine flagon down and is like brushing at his chest. Corbray, fucking Corbray, and is just over there still kind of muttering and grunting to himself, but he very pointedly puts his drink down. And your grandfather
Clearly he's had enough.
Yeah, your grandfather just gives a little nod. You've seen that little nod before over like a Sivas board. Which remember is they're like Westerosi chess that they never tell us the rules for in the books.
Yeah.
But it's a small like okay, that was well played sort of nod. He just responds to that news there. Which for the viewers that may have forgotten, Lynn Corbray is remembered in Dorne for killing the Dornish member of the Kingsguard that is a very close blood relation of yours, and for breaking the Dornish lines at the Battle of the Trident. So even though he's from the Vale and not from the Stormlands, you're more kind of traditional rivals. It's a little weird for Lynn Corbray to have taken up arms on behalf of a bunch of Dornishmen. So
I'm very persuasive.
I did feel that building our team the way we did increased our standing, and that we had members of our team from all over Westeros, and we had allies from families that were not actually on the team, such as Lady Alysain. And I feel that having the Stormlander and Vale Knight, the Corbray.
Out of character, it's 2 Stormlanders.
Right.
Dondarrion and Swan, just a reminder.
Having the Stormlanders and the
Valeman.
Corbray helped with our standing at court in a way. It showed that we're not afraid to reach across the divides that have been caused before we came on the scene.
Grandfather gives a thoughtful nod and then kind of glances
I
around.
I like to think that it has demonstrated that our conduct has demonstrated that we are diplomatic and personable as well as fearsome.
That is exactly the balance we were attempting to strike.
Sorry, out of character. I just love that it was kindly go fuck yourself, sir. Was also the one saying we were diplomatic and personable.
He said kindly.
It was very polite. It was.
And I apologized as well for some of it.
Like I bought him a cake. Shut up.
And I'm not actually like going to mention that because I don't want to get in trouble. But also like all the rest of the Vale contingent all like me now because I did that. So I made us friends in the Vale.
It was the diplomatic and personable exact phrasing that tickled me out of character. That's all.
This is Adam trying to be statesmanlike and not and be economical with the truth.
I also made connections of friendship and possible future alliances with some Vale folk, and we met Sir Brendan Tully, the Blackfish, who is a most entertaining feast partner and companion.
He's a man of great honor. He's a man of great honor and integrity, and I'm glad to have met him.
Woolly Will gives a kind of affirmative grunt and a few nods, like, "Oh yeah, no, Blackfish, I like him."
And we would like to have a tournament.
Well, yes, in due time.
That was sudden.
In
right?
due time.
Oh, by the way,
grandfather. Grandfather casts a glance over his shoulder at the sky that is beginning to change color as sundown is approaching. Well then, let us handle the one tournament at a time. And he heaves himself up out of his seat, leaning on his desk and reaching for his fine cane that, like, the handle is like an arched neck of a dragon, and like the wings go back the other side of the handle, so it's almost like a T grip, like it's not just a simple curve, right? And then like the tail goes down to the wooden pole, like it's a nice cane. But he hauls himself up. He goes, I will go see to your triumphant feast, celebrating your return. You lot are not invited until a few less secrets exist. And he gives Woolly Will a look on his way out the door, and he goes, only a few, Will, or bread and salt be damned. And then he shuts the door, and you lot are stuck in the solar with Woolly Will. And as the door slams shut, we will cut to our break.
Ah, man.
See everybody back here in about 10 minutes.
Now.
Kathoom! The door to Grandfather's Solar shut right before we went to our quick commercial break, with commercials only for this very show that you're already watching. Whatever, don't worry about it. So that's where we left off. Grandfather Makar had explained that you lot were not welcome at your own welcome feast until the air had been cleared with Woolly Will, and he made it very clear to Woolly Will to be rid of some of the secrets and lies But then he literally ended it with a death threat of, but only some of them, or bread and salt be damned. So clearly still some secrets he wants Willy Will to keep, or he's going to break guest right and murder him. So you think Grandpa maybe takes some of this seriously, right? So that was where we left off.
I mean, Adam's more like, what secrets are we not allowed to know? What the fuck?
So the
Willy Will.
the door shuts.
Luke stands in the corner of
what-
his arms
what-
crossed.
Adam's just gonna kind of look sort of anxiously at Will. Like, what does he mean, Will?
Hells. Guess I can't put it off any longer. 18 years is plenty. And he looks longingly at the goblet of wine, and at this other goblet of wine, and at the pitcher. And then he doesn't. And instead, he straightens up in his chair. And you are once again reminded of the size of him. You've been hanging out with Lady Olenna Tyrell's absurdly huge bodyguards. You've been hanging out with Kettle Blacks. You fought King Robert. You've been hanging out with Maya Stone. And of course, I think Adam briefly noticed Oris in your party. So you've been hanging around some big people, right? But you're reminded, as Wooly Will kind of straightens up, he's a big dude. He's clearly like fallen to fat, and his slunched over and you know, slunched. I just made up a new word. Whatever. I'm a writer. It counts. So he's very, you know, you recognize that he downplays his size, and he's also, you know, like 60 years old. So he's smaller than he has been, you know. But he straightens up, like refuses to reach for a drink just now, and kind of resignedly, you know, claws at the armchair to haul himself upright. He goes, "Fine. I've got to tell Oris the rest of the story anyway, and I'll practice it on you lot. Robert's Rebellion. Everything was mad. This upstart Stormlord, and this second son of the Wolf King, and John Aaron and his damn teeth and his clever mind, and all of that got together because Eris and his damned temper, and then Rhaegar and his damned promise, and the beauty of that lad, and everything was mad. Brothers killed brothers, and families were torn apart, houses, realms. Everyone was killing fucking everyone. And through it, there, at the end of it, I was in King's Landing. I was there. I was in the Red Keep when those fucking bells rang, and they promised the false peace, the safety of the lion at the gate. Tywin Lannister had arrived, and all the armies of the Westerlands would keep the people of King's Landing safe. So some fucking fool with a rope rang a bell, and then everyone else rang their fucking bells. And then those damned fools opened the gates. He kind of looks away for a second. You get the feeling you could interject a bit. I'm going to try and give you guys a out of character note. I'm occasionally going to make him stop a little just because I don't want to just like recite a whole story. But if you don't want to interrupt, don't feel like you have to. Like if you don't have something good, you know what I mean? But
Luke just nods solemnly, knowing what happens next.
So, the gates open. The Kingslayer earned his name. And every Lannister cloak had its golden lion washed out in blood as they made their way through the city and there towards the keep. I made it out. I cut my way out of King's Landing. And then when the peace came and everyone said the war was over and Robert Baratheon had earned his fucking throne and crown and city and all the rest of it, it was a Lannister that made me go back to that fucking place. Because Robert was betrothed to Cersei, the Golden Lioness, the Princess of Casterly Rock. They announced the betrothal, and they announced a tournament to celebrate it, as she and her grand caravan made their way from Casterly Rock to King's Landing, taking their sweet fucking time. Attorney. I was living as a hedge knight then because I had nothing else to do. So I had this stupid new name and this stupid new face and this goddamn stupid idea to go back to King's Landing. Because no hedge knight worth his salt would miss out on this tourney. Robert thought he had the whole damned Targaryen armory to equip all of his best knights with, and the whole damned Targaryen treasury to throw at whoever caught his fucking eye. So, what hedge knight would miss out on that? So I went back to that damn city. I fought in the tourney, I won a few times, and started to learn the pattern. You win once to break even on horse and mount. And here he's kind of glancing over at Luke and Baela. You win twice to get a ransom from the second poor fool. And then, if you don't want to be spotted, you lose in the third round. And then, you eat off that ransom for as long as you can until you go back to another tournament. And you win twice and you lose again. But I'd only just learned that trick. And I made the fool mistake of setting foot back in the Red Keep to celebrate with everyone else that wasn't disqualified in the first fucking round. Because Robert learned he rather liked giving feasts. So we opened it to everyone but the fucking losers, I believe, he said. And all us fools cheered. And I went. A damned keep. There, I reacquainted myself with a girl. An ugly girl, tall and strong and proud, and no one's idea of a beauty, except maybe mine, because I had danced with her once before, and I danced with her again because no one else wanted to. Alysanne Royce. Only then, it turned out, Robert Baratheon wanted to do more than dance with her. And he did. As I was eating and drinking away my tourney winnings in some fucking wine sink not far from Bessa and her bakery, the Lady Alysanne got word to me. She was pregnant. This was months later. Cersei was due to arrive any day, and with her, half the Lannister army, and Tywin again, and the whole lot of Westerland cunts. If word got out, you understand, you must understand. If word had gotten out that Robert had fucked a baby into a Royce girl to celebrate his betrothal to Cersei, the madness would have begun anew. Tywin would have been insulted and slaughtered everyone. The Royces would have broken faith with Jon Arryn and his lot. Half of them weren't loyal in the first place there in the Vale. They had to get beat into submission. That bloodthirsty bastard Corbray, all the Royces and their pride and their size and their strength. Everyone would have fought again. And everyone would have died. And we might have been left with King fucking Tywin. So I told them it was me. I told them the baby was mine. I told Bronze Yarn Royce to his fucking face that I plowed his sister and put a bastard in her belly. And then I refused his challenge, and I took the shame of that as my excuse to leave that cursed fucking city for years. I swore not to shave this damned beard or cut my fucking hair until I did right by House Royce. Still growing the silly things. But what they did to her was worse. I'm just not allowed to shave. She's not allowed anything. He looks longingly at the drinks again.
Yeah, at that, Adam's giving her a look of, yeah, no fucking shit. Like, yeah, that's he's not pleased about that. But yeah, he's just listening quietly. But like, yeah, you done fucked up.
So,
but in a way that I kind of understand. So continue.
Bronze Yarn wanted the baby dead. He wanted the shame of it removed. But since I had told him so publicly, everyone knew anyway. And that's the only reason I think that they didn't force her. That, and she might have killed someone. They told her time and again, and he was lord of her house even then. Just brother or not, lord of her house. And she wouldn't do it. She spat the tansy tea in their fucking face. And she was always so strong. And they took it from her. They took it from her. And they took the baby. The baby was given to Bessa, and clearly the lad grew just fine. But Alisane is gone. She had to take a new name also. Sister something somewhere. No tongue anymore. Hiding her away in some fucking convent. But we had to. We couldn't tell them, or the baby would have died anyway, and half the fucking kingdom alongside it. It was a dumb answer, but we couldn't think of a better one. So that's what we did. And then I just left. I rode around Resteros for half a dozen years before I went back to that fucking city and took the boy so Bessa wouldn't be saddled with him. I took him because he was supposed to be mine. Because the Royces had long since left for the Vale. I just took him, and I raised him, and I taught him to fight. 7 hills did the boy eat. You seen him? Yeah. I did my best by him. I never married, and never a father, not really. I tried with him, though. And then when your grandfather said, Lord Makar Nymarian, sitting in this fucking room, in this fucking castle, when he said he wanted Horus to go with you lot, that it would be more proper for all of them together, he said. It would be right for him to go with you. I told him no. I tried. But it's Lord Makar of Wyvern's Rest in fucking Wyvern's Rest. And once he said Horus was going, Horus was going. So I had to tell the boy something. I had to tell him about the Royces, about his mother, about who she was, who she wanted to be, and who they wouldn't let her. Because if one of them spoke to him otherwise, you know the boy, he's no great thinker, but he's a great fighter. And he'd have killed someone and not known why. If if he still thought Bessa was his mom, and then some fucking Royce from the Vale comes down talking about some woman he doesn't know and claiming it. Just, you know the boy. In his confusion, he'd have hit someone, and then the fucking Royces would have fought, and then he'd have killed someone, and then... well, well, we didn't want you lot to draw any attention, did we?
Well,
Fucking King's Landing. But
yeah.
But there it was. That's why I told him what I did. He had to know something. I had to at least give him a shield to take with him into that fucking Viper's den. And I should have told him his father too, but well, you know the boy. He drinks and he doesn't talk, but sometimes he yells. And I don't know. He's not afraid of anyone, ever, that I've seen. And if he saw the king, what might he have said or done? Especially knowing what he'd heard about his mother, his real mother. More people would have died or something. I don't know. I couldn't tell him all of it. Not right before he left. Not without me going with him to keep him safe, but this fucking leg. And I gave him what I could. I couldn't give him a sword, but I wanted to give him a shield.
Well, I can see why you made that decision, and I can understand that was a difficult position to be in. You not being able to come with us certainly made that more difficult, but I can see that you were trying to do what was best for Oris, and I, for one, appreciate that. But it maybe would have been easier if we had known beforehand rather than learning it from Lady Olenna.
No one tells the Queen of Thorns what to say and what to keep silent. She might have just told you lot as a test. Just told you to see what you'd say or what you wouldn't. I don't know any woman's fucking mind, but hers least of all. It's as tangled as a fucking ivy or some fucking plant. I don't know. I don't know fucking anything.
No, it's fine. It maybe would have done us better to have not been been a little less sort of taken aback by it if we'd been prepared to deal with it. But and it's done now. Your story has moved me. I'm not convinced there's anything that you would be able to do to make things right with House Royce, but I hope dearly that you can make things right with Oris.
You said they weren't cruel to him, though. That Robar and whoever else.
No.
They weren't mean to the boy?
No.
Good.
They didn't seem to have any animosity.
If anything, I may be reading too much into things from what I knew at the time, but if I perceived any emotion around it from Lord Royce, it was perhaps more sadness, though perhaps only the smallest amount of it. He's not exactly the most expressive person, from what I can gather.
Good. He deserves it. Fucking sadness. Like he's... Anyway, I fucking yawn.
Well, I mean, he lost his sister. It's...
He threw his sister away.
Well, you know what? You're not wrong. And I'm not happy about that either. But I mean, I can only imagine the difficult choices a lord of a house has to make when appearances are everything.
But
I'm trying to be
King
fair
Wallace.
with it to everyone about this.
You said the boy hit Robert though. Hit the usurper.
Yes. Quite
Oris,
hard.
With
Oris
what? What did he have?
Oris was smacking the king around with a warhammer in one hand and a great sword in the other.
Boy, he does nothing by halves. He doesn't.
Absolutely.
That's what I'm saying, though. I couldn't tell him. It just.
It's all right. Well,
Good lad.
I'm not cross with you anymore. It's fine. I just really hope that when you tell this to Oris, that he might understand as well after a fashion, because he's probably going to be angry at first.
He'll likely rip my other leg off and start beating me with it. We'll see how it goes. We'll see.
Well, I mean, if you're genuinely worried about that, you don't have to do that alone.
I'll not put anyone else at risk either. No, I'll talk to him with it. I've run from precious few fights in this stupid fucking life I've had, but I'll not run from this one. So he hit the king twice, you said, and then Robert knighted him.
Yes.
And here he kind of looks over towards Lucaris, because you guys did make it clear that Luke, he was, what? And he said, cause of me.
Yep.
He said that he found the concept of any other knight knighting him an insult to you. However, he would make an exception for the man he believed knighted you.
Stupid boy. Stupid boy. I wasn't knighted by the usurper.
Yeah.
You weren't?
I was knighted by another king. Just, Robert's a fucking fool. He's a fool and a drunk and a fucking fool.
Who knighted you?
In a second, I knew this Will of the Bells thing would work because Robert didn't know who he fucking knighted. Robert didn't know who he fucking fucked. Robert doesn't know anything. No, it wasn't him. I knelt in the Great Sept. I was anointed by the High Septon. And I was knighted by King Eris.
Whoa.
You're an anointed knight. House Targaryen.
7. Hell.
And here he
Is
makes
that why
a
you came to
point.
grandfather?
He makes a point of like straightening up again, and kind of self-consciously raking his fingers through his beard, and doing the same to his hair, and lifting his chin a little. My name's Will. I'm not some fucking hedge knight. I'm Sir Willem Derry. I was master at arms of the Red Keep.
Oh shit.
Brother, Sir Jonathor, served on the King's Guard when that still fucking meant something. I couldn't let Robert's bastard be known and another war start. Not if I could stop it. This rebellion happened because I taught Rhaegar how to sit a saddle and use a lance. And I wouldn't see another war be on my hands. I couldn't do it.
I kneel.
Adam just sort of sinks into the chair up, like on the other side of the desk, just kind of
And he gets a far away
That's
look
7 hells.
in
That's
his
quite a
eyes
scene.
as he tries to choke back the tears a little bit. But it is a strong man crying, and you have the distinct impression he has not for a very long time. And he gets this faraway look again. And out of character, I'm going to mention this very specifically because we are in a little bit of an alt reality. So you're about to get a couple different details of Robert's rebellion in a shockingly first person perspective. But it's going to be some of the small differences. Sorry. In the keep, the fucking Kingslayer was the only King's Guard left. That boy. So it fell to me, it normally did, the safety and security of the family. But then came that birth, that cursed birth. The queen was unwell. The birthing killed her. And then when Viserys threw himself from the battlements, wailing for his mother, that fucking boy, he... And then, so soon after that, the Lannister men, what they did to Elia Martell, what they did to everyone they could. I killed as many as I could, and it was more than most. I cut my way out of there, thinking I'd leave and start some new rebellion. But everyone was beaten. No one wanted to fight anymore. No one could. Not after the Trident. Not after Rhaegar fell. I taught the boy to fight good enough to start a war, but I couldn't teach him to fight good enough to finish one. He still fell to that fucking hammer. So I did what I could.
You can't blame yourself for all of that.
I can.
Oh, right. Okay.
I taught him to tilt well enough to beat Sir
Well-
Arthur Dane. If
well-
I hadn't taught him how to beat Barristan Selmy, if he'd lost, he may have never given that fucking crown of flowers to that Stark whore, and
Right.
it might not have happened.
What I meant was you shouldn't. A lot of different people made a lot of different bad decisions, and you can't claim it all for yourself.
They're all dead, boy. If it's not me, then who?
Look, does it help to blame yourself? Does that make your life better?
Blame has to fall on someone.
Let it fall on the gods. Let it fall on the Mad King for trying to kill all of his people.
It's been a heavy burden.
It seems like
I learned to stand beneath it. And maybe I've held on to it too long, but I've grown accustomed to the weight. I tried to teach Oris even better than Rhaegar. You've seen the lad fight. He's strong as Robert and as good as Rhaegar was. He's the best fighter I've seen. I sparred with the sword of the morning. That boy, I told him not to fight. There's no way he could and still not be seen. That's why. It's not because I'm not proud of him. It's not because I didn't think he'd do good. It's that I knew he would. And I didn't want that.
I understand you didn't want him to draw the wrong kind of attention. If it's any consolation, he protested about us encouraging him the entire time.
But you swear it. Stannis said nothing to Robert John Aaron said nothing to Robert. Cersei,
Right.
Cersei did nothing.
Cersei, to the best of my knowledge, did nothing. To the best of, I can't know for sure what was said behind closed doors, but Luke and I looked Lord Stannis and Lord Aaron in the face, and as far as we can tell, convinced them not to tell Robert and not to take any action.
They seem to be as concerned for the boys' well-being as you, and as in agreement that the less Robert knows, the better.
Cersei was much more concerned with the presence of Maya Stone. I don't think she even noticed Oris more than beyond a cursory glance.
If any danger comes to the boy, it'll not be from those two, but Cersei.
You lot of Dornish, you know Milestone's his eldest, but Oris is a man.
Yes, I'm
if
quite
Cersei
aware,
knows about him, if Cersei knows, hell, if Robert knows about him and happens to look at that fucking cunt Joffrey in the same glance, the boy could be his heir. If he's legitimized, Cersei, Tywin, the Kingslayer himself, all of them.
Well, he's not going to be, because we agreed that he was going to stay here, that he was not going to come back to King's Landing. And that was enough for Stannis and Jon Arryn. And like I said, I am nigh certain that Cersei knows nothing about it, and neither does Robert.
And he looks pretty worriedly around the room. Like, he already asked you guys this, you already answered him, but, he's wanting that, like, extra people tell me extra times sort of vibe.
Yeah.
And then he just kind of slumps down in his chair again and lets out a great big sigh. So, there you have it. That's who I am, and that's who Oris is. He's a bastard still, but that's why he couldn't know. That's why no one should know.
Right now, Oris needs you to make sense of things more than he needs in anything but his actual father.
Yes, it doesn't take terribly much effort to father a child, but it takes a lot of effort to raise one, and you've put the work in.
That said, having the heir to a king in your pocket is not a terrible thing to have. Luke shakes his head. Forgive me.
Look,
you have done a noble deed, Sir William. Many of them.
Look, it would not be having a king in our pocket. It would be having a dead Oris, most likely.
As far as I'm concerned, just puts Oris in the same boat as us.
It really doesn't. I mean, there's already 3 people in King's Landing who know that's 3 too many.
It is, but
because it is done, and as long as neither as long as neither the Master of Ships nor the Hand of the King say anything, then that's all that matters.
okay.
He gives you all one final kind of tired look. Like, you think more than anything he looks tired. You can tell, though, that this isn't a story he's told in probably 16 or 17 years. Like, you're sure that your grandfather must know, that Queen Elena, a few others, but the words sounded rusty and stuck and heavy, and he just looks exhausted. And he gives a lot of you like one last look for like one last chance to ask him anything. Like that's the look he's got. It's almost a plaintive look, like please can this be over now? Is the look he's giving you, and the ball is in your court.
Is that everything?
That's what I can tell. To honor what I've said to your grandfather and what we've sworn, and yes. I'm sorry, children, but that is what I can tell.
No, that's good enough for me, Sir Will.
Sir Will, what now? For you.
After you lot sawed off to your feast, I'm gonna drink every drop of wine left in this fucking room.
Sir Will, I would probably advise not to talk to Orist about this while you're drunk. I mean, I mean, just not completely drunk. I'm not saying don't drink anything, but maybe wait until after you've told him to do all the drinking. Just make sure that, because
Adam, I'm sure Sir William knows how to drink at this point.
I'm not telling him how to drink, Luke. You know what? Never mind. I'll just go since, like, I'm apparently superfluous.
I want to go over to him and put my hand on his shoulder. Thank you. And then I will leave.
Anybody else? Any particular plans, last call for questions or anything?
No.
I give him a polite nod and leave as well.
Yeah, that's all I was going to do. Polite nod.
As everyone is gone except for the smallest and least formidable of you, he will pipe up in kind of a small voice. The other folk were kind to him, were they, boy? They weren't the Royces and that you said, but just folk weren't mean to him.
Some of the squires were unkind, but we put an end to it quickly.
One of them stabbed him in the fucking kidney.
Well, they didn't stab him in the kidney. This kid's just like cut him in the side. He was fine.
They were trying to stab him in the kidney.
And you know what? It is covered by they were unkind.
Kind people don't do that, Felicia.
Yeah.
It was already very plenty clear.
Fine.
I mean,
I'm so sorry that.
One of the Freys stuck him a bit, but he shrugged it off, and they got scared off and never bothered us again. A few people made some kind of remarks, but nothing actually particularly cutting. But
Yeah.
most people were good. Most people were good to him.
And after the boy,
I'm just sort of, I guess, being frank with you about how the Kettleblacks and the Freys behaved, because they're Kettleblacks and Freys. So I don't think that they did anything that they wouldn't have done to one of us anyway.
If they could have gotten away with it.
and once he was a Sir, Sir Oris Waters. The other knights, did they fear him?
I don't know. You'd probably have to ask him. But they seemed to welcome him. But I confess I didn't see very much of what went on in the nightly circles because I'm not in that.
I know. Sorry, lad.
Oh, it's all right.
You go on. Go have your feast.
Will you not be joining us?
I'll be down there eventually.
All right.
Unless Horus kills me.
I mean, I am serious. If you don't, if because I'll come along with you because he definitely won't kill me.
He gives you a somewhat skeptical
just-
look when you suggest yourself as his bodyguard.
I mean, no, I was more suggesting myself as a breastplate. You could just sort of strap me onto the front so that he can.
I'll be fine, boy.
All
Go
right.
on. Get yourself some food and some glory and find some pretty girl.
Thank you, Sir Willem. Do you want us to just keep calling you Sir Willem, or
I cleverly used my own fucking name as my own fucking name. So yes, Sir Will is fine.
All right.
He says it in a self-deprecating way, like because honestly, that was probably just like he needed a fake name and it was like, Will, like so it's. You get the feeling that it's himself that he is, poking fun at for the cunning ploy of, yes.
Well, it's just more like does he want it the more formal Willem, or that's what I meant. I didn't mean like that, but
either one works.
I'm not getting myself across very well right now.
No, it's fine. You guys haven't ever seen like a birth certificate of Woolly Will or Will of the Bells. It could very well be Willem, except people say Will. Like it's not a society where that sort of thing is very formal, so like yeah, it's fine. All right, and with that, Adam is clear.
You all right?
Once Adam can breathe, or once Ash can breathe.
Yeah, just what happened? I just failed my breathing roll.
All right. We will jump cut to your celebratory feast then, which is both welcoming you home, welcoming the new people you brought with you, celebrating your victories, welcoming Lucaris back home, etc., etc. If you want, you can go get changed before heading down. If you do go get changed, please be prepared to describe your fancy feast garb as you make your way to the main hall of Wyvern's Rest. Is anybody getting changed beforehand?
I am.
I've only had these clothes on a few hours. It's fine.
I'm fine.
So it sounds like Reyna's wanting to dress up some and look more airy before she shows up, but everyone else more airy.
Yeah, Luke's good at how he is. He's comfortable.
All right then. What is Reyna wearing as the four of you slow motion walk into your celebratory feast, like the cool kids walking down the hall in fucking what's the witch movie? Anyways, whatever. Go ahead. Like what's Reyna got? Like, yeah, in the craft. Remember that scene where like they're doing the slow motion, like the cool popular girls walk down the hallway. Then like they copied it in X-Men Evolution because it was fucking iconic. And anyways, like you four doing the like, the cool kid.
Okay. Change us into a simple gown of gathered fabrics that start with a collar, comes down like this, and is strapless. Not strapless, but the shoulders are bare. In the back, it does the same kind of hourglass thing. And so it's open, like right above the hips on both sides. And then the skirt just, it's long, but so lightweight, it doesn't matter. And and it's just it's got some light beadwork around the collar, the strap, the wide collar, which is the wyverns in one, and the dress itself is uh, actually kind of a silver.
What are you doing to your nose?
My nose is itching. I'm sorry.
Okay, I thought it was like, are you trying to remember something? Is that your like a symbol to Bela to start stabbing people? What's going on?
Steps. I brought
That's
Sunfire
time
for
for
a reason.
cocaine.
All right,
Yeah, and then she just that's it. Simple costume change.
all right, and then Adam was just going to hang a little extra tinsel on his Christmas tree. So what are you doing to spice up your already comfortable and impressive garb?
Yeah, I mean, because like he was already dressed like quite fancy, but we'll probably like put jewelry on, I guess. I like to think that he went back to his room to kind of go like, I'll just fancy this up a bit. I'm already fairly fancy. Like think about like maybe taking the bow down to show off, and while kind of debating that, be kind of unrolling like the thing he's got all his jewelry in, and kind of find his opal of obscene size, and be sort of flooded with memories, and kind of go, you know what, I'm gonna put this on.
The opal of obscene size, like it's a magic item.
Yeah.
Makes me think of rodents of unusual size.
Right?
That's precisely what I was referencing. Yeah. So he'll put on his giant opal ring and maybe like some kind of gold chain. Oh no, fuck it. No, the ring's a silver setting, so it'll be a silver chain.
There you go.
Because the sort of wraparound tunic has a bit of because by their nature they leave a bit of exposed chest, so he's going to put something interesting in that valley. Even though like it's probably going to look less impressive because he's not all sort of swarthy looking like the Red Viper. He's a bit peely wally.
What?
Peely wally means he's a bit pale.
Ah, okay. Sorry, I was like, what?
I just realised I went, oh right, I said a thing in Scots. I need to translate that now.
I appreciate it.
That's right. It's just the version of the phrase that Adam picked up during his time in the North.
Yeah.
Like that's what they all commented on when he showed up with his Targaryen-looking self.
And they're all like, wow, you're really white.
No, they said he was very peely-wally. We just went over this, Felicia. Jesus, just keep up.
You're a bit peely wally for a Dornishman.
And look, he's got pants on too. Like it's just all been lies.
Yeah, that's probably fairly accurate for his experience of White Harbor, of like people kind of like giving him shit.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. So all right, the four of you do the cool kid slow motion walk into your feast, and glancing around, you see almost everybody in the world that you like. I mean, all the ones that you could take with you. Right. So, you've got, of course, the NPCs that you just recently brought with you, Alysanne Mormont, Little Robert. They both look very freshly cleaned from the road, and they tried to do something with his hair, with like a bunch of water, but it's not. It's still just sticking up like a bunch of straw, But he's cleaned up. And they put him in some lighter Dornish garb that he keeps picking at. Like they put him in just like almost a vest. The sleeves are so short, like the sleeves are just kind of at an angle and then they go down, and he keeps like scrunching up at it, and it's got like a high collar because then the rest of it is like, I don't want to say revealing because he's like fucking 12, but you know what I mean? Like it's stylized in a certain way. So he keeps picking at the collar and like tugging at the sides of it. And he's, he looks uncomfortable. Alysanne Mormont looks plenty comfy. She's in basically the garb that like the default soldiers of House Nymerian wear, but it's like the officer class. So they just kind of dressed her up in soldier man's clothes, which is still temperature appropriate. So it's flowing stuff. Um, in my head, what I think looks cool is most of your troops are more wine red, and like most of your knights and like the veteran men at arms that are kind of sergeants or officers are more on like the black side. So everyone's wearing the house colors, but like at a glance, you can see who's in charge. You know what I mean? So like
Yeah.
she's in more the black side of the Nymerian color gradient. But it looks like she also started drinking like as soon as the feast started, or maybe a couple minutes before, because who's going to tell her no? So she looks like she's already been socially lubricated enough to not be concerned with her garments or how loose and flowing they are, or if she was supposed to put something on underneath that or not. It's hard to tell. Whatever, she's sitting down, everything's fine. So yeah, she's seems to be fine and having a good time. Uh, Bessa is still wearing the same clothes that she had on before, except that the sleeves are like all the way rolled up, and she's got a little smudge of flour on her cheek and stuff. Like she just went to the kitchen and did work. So there's like smears on her apron, but her sleeves are up as the one concession to the heat. But also, it looks like some of the buttons were undone on her blouse, but she has on that apron, so no one has died. So no anime nosebleeds or anything because she has on her baker's apron. So she has modified her garment to account for the heat of the kitchen. But she's just like sitting at a table already eating and drinking with folks, with some of the other, servants and stuff, just fitting right in. Um, I don't know. It's kind of everybody with a name that you guys brought, right? I'm trying to, because everybody else like bailed along the way. You guys don't actually have Barrack Thundarian in Reyna's footlocker or anything.
Wait, have we checked?
Man, that really would have been embarrassing if those knights dumped the wrong chest on the floor and they were like, "Here, grandfather," and like out comes a Stormlander with no pants. They just dump a naked Barrack Dondarrion out, and yeah, it would have been.
Sorry.
That would have been a little awkward.
I reckon with a good enough roll, Adam could have spun it.
Oh, that's mine. I mean,
That's mine.
Well, given how bad he is at deception, that's probably how it would have ended up.
Yeah.
So, Lord Makar, he is basically always dressed appropriately because he decides what appropriate is, and he's wearing the same stuff. He just went straight from the Solar down there. But you do get another good look at Sir Derek Fossaway, the strong cider, who is there with some of the other officers and stuff, and he's already laughing and drinking and having a good time with Alisane Mormont. And he's also dressed in the kind of martial garb of the house. His has a golden trim on it around the outfit as a nod to the core colors of House Fossaway. Your maester is there just wearing maestery shit because that's what they do. Sir Adam Bridington is wearing the colors of House Bridington, but it's like the fancy version. And remember, he is kind of a tall, rangy Liam Neeson-ish type. He is also of about Liam Neeson-ish age. Well, the way Liam Neeson tends to portray his age in several movies, you're guessing is 55-ish, right? Kind of mid-50s. But he's hanging out up there at the high table as a landed knight. And so is the Lady Elia, who is just wearing some leather armor. And it's got like flowing silken type of pants, but she's just wearing like the top half is just her leather armor with her arms exposed showing off a couple scars, showing off the guns, showing off the tan, just wearing leather armor instead of a shirt. Um, and she is, because she's also a landed knight, she is also up top at the high table. And I believe that's all your highborn. Septon Jum is still back. He's hanging out in Bridington lands because he's kind of the second in command under Adam Bridington. So he's not there. Yeah, I believe that is everybody. So, where do you lot want to go? Here in your feast, we've got the better part of an hour to hang out, and my plan, just out of character, Lee, was to let you guys spend it hanging out with some of the NPCs that you haven't gotten to hang out with very much yet. So, who wants to go after whom and have some conversating?
I'll go first.
I think.
Okay, go ahead, Bela.
Okay. I'm going to go up to the table with Aunt Elia and Sir. Oh, geez, you just said it. How did it leave my mind so quick?
Sir Adam Bridington.
Yes, thank you.
And Grandpa Makar.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I'd like to go up there with them to sort of tell them about the glory of battle in a very similar way to a Klingon telling battle stories. That's what this is going to be. Yeah. So it's going to be kind of similar to what I told to Grandpa Makar, but it's I'm going to open with I got to fight the king.
Sir Adam chokes on his bite of food, and Aunt Elia just laughs out loud. This mad cackle that normally means she's about to kill somebody.
Before I tell you that one, let me just share some of the other cool fights that I got to do. And so I'll give some like brief things about the joust, and it was cool to see like all the horses and all the armors and the knights and such, and here I am, and then win my first round, took sort of a dodge a bit, and got unhorsed in that very first round because I was helping out our cousin Will, bless the seven, and then took him on the ground instead. It was a little bit of a nasty fight, but I got out of there and was able to handle myself there. Then in the next round, I won on horse, unhorsed my opponent, and that was that. And then in the third round, it was Sir Marin Trant, the King's Guard, and he was a tough fight. Knocked him off his horse just barely, and then got off my horse, and it came to blows on the ground. We were just blow after blow hitting each other, but thanks to the Valyrian spear Sunfire here, I managed to get the last blow before he finally yielded under my strength, and he was cursing me the whole time. And see, he has this bad reputation of hurting some women in town, and the other women, they don't like him so much, and so I made sure to teach him a lesson.
And Sir Adam, like there were, I don't want to call them interjections, but like when you mentioned cousin Will, Aunt Elia toasted to him, that sort of thing, and to the will of Will, maybe find a new one, right? That sort of thing, all while listening. And Adam, Sir Adam Bridington, gives a little nod. He goes, Marin Trance. Well, they're all just Robert's Kingsguard, but he's not a cunt like Blunt. He's supposed to be a good fighter. Well done.
Thanks.
Love the cut.
I mean, he's also a cunt, but
It was closed at the end. I just managed to get the best of them, and that was a rough fight. And then the next round, the other side of that jousting arena was Sir Garland, and the stories they tell of him, they don't do him justice. Both on
Which
the field,
ones? Yeah.
all of them. Whew.
Yeah, and Elia gives Adam Broddington like an elbow in the ribs, like he's in on those stories. But yeah, like she's the one that cackled out the which one, if that was
Yeah.
unclear.
He's as handsome as they say, and fights better than they say. I hit him solid at the first pass, like solid, about as good as I've ever hit anyone in. He was still in the saddle. I don't know what I could have done better, and unfortunately the second pass he knocked me off, and if I hadn't been needing to prepare for the melee, I probably would have challenged him, but I knew I wasn't going to be any match for him on the ground, so I just honorably took my loss.
Sir Adam gives a knowing nod. He goes, "It's unusual for tourneys to even allow finishing a fight on the ground, but given the circumstances, withdrawing, you maintained the strength of your forces before a later clash, that sort of thing. Made perfect sense, girl. You did good. You did good." And Elia's answer is he also as honorable and married as they say?
Sadly, yes. That's
Sadly,
not
yes. Sadly, that is also true. And otherwise,
the dark look there.
otherwise, I might have found out other rumors as well, but I cannot confirm those.
Could have seen how good a wrestler he is.
That's right. Unfortunately, that was not to be seen. So that was, oh gosh, that was the fourth round. I made it very far. That was a rush, and yeah, by the end of it, I was sort of being well known amongst the small folk. They were chanting my name as much as Sir Garland at the end of that fight. So that was really cool.
You get impressed nods and another kind of cheerful toast. And then Sir Adam says, "How many were in the list?"
64.
And you placed, must have been
the-
top 8 then.
Yes.
Fine work.
Thank you.
I should demand a lower tax rate from your grandfather. He is the chief one that teaches the horsemanship side of fighting around here. But yeah,
Yeah, you taught me well. Leaning into those blows really makes a difference to knock your opponent off. You were right about that.
you've got less mass than probably anyone you're going to be fighting. So technique's the answer. Accuracy, eh, Elia? He gives her a little nudge, and she's like, "Accuracy and technique, yes, honorable and married. What about after the tourney? What about the real fights?"
Well, there was a real fight in the tourney. Well, you don't want to skip this. That's where I fought the king. I actually got a few blows on him, too. Though not as much as Sir Oris. But the melee, there were 7 of us, and it was Reyna, myself, Sir Luke, Sir Vannon, our cousin Will of Will, said Oris, and Nathan Lucas. Nathan Lucas, and
That bastard.
the seventh was, oh my gosh,
The Will of Will.
Will of
Did you
Will?
know you mentioned
I
him?
thought you already
Yeah,
said
you
that.
already- yeah, you mentioned him.
That was a long time ago.
Oh my gosh. Anyhow, the other name, unfortunate party
Right.
that I can't remember.
Like,
No,
what
I
was
think that might have been all seven
Okay.
that you listed then.
Because there's the three
Um,
of us and Oris
And Vannon.
and Fannin.
Okay.
That's five.
Yeah, and then Will and
Yeah,
Nathan.
that's right.
So yeah,
Okay.
that's the seven.
Got it.
There was the,
Yeah,
there was
you added everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was wild.
For the record, during you rattling that off, they drink another toast to the Will of Will, and they also drink to Sir Vanin Rivers. But they don't interrupt to do so. They're just cheerfully toasting.
I
As they
pause
make
at
you-
those moments to also toast and then continue with it. So that was wild. There was fights everywhere in this enclosed ring. There's no escape. You fought until yielding, and wave after wave came. But the tactics of that I used, keeping us together, watching each other's back, we persevered. I even launched another knight into the air at one point with the back of Sunfire here. And eventually it was just Raina, myself, and Sir Oris against the king. We got a few blows in before Raina took one from the hammer. You know the one. She's okay though, but after that, and Oris getting a nice smack across the king's helmet, knocking it clear off, John Aaron and Barristan Selmy put an end to things before the battle could truly be settled. And people might say there was no doubt about who was going to win that, but it wasn't so clear.
Aunt Elia lifts her glass to you and drinks the rest of it in a toast to you clashing Sunfire against Robert's hammer.
And then finally the real fight, the trial by 7. The first trial by 7 in almost 100 years. The first trial by 7 with a woman. And I grin mischievously at that.
Sir Adam gives you a little laugh and goes, "Who was she?"
It was me, of course, I say in a boisterous, loud voice. Lady Bela.
They lift their glasses again after tricking you into announcing it.
and the 7 of us defending our honor from the vile accusations of House Lugas. And we were victorious. I fought off against Sir Archibald Ironwood.
Aunt Elia spits in the feast hall. She just, no question, no doubt. She just turns and spits right there at the dinner table.
Yeah, you might want to mention that you cut his head clean off.
I have something to say about that. You'll see in just a moment.
Oh god, you didn't bring it home with you, did you?
No, that was no. They could take the body back to their
The Maesters are
awful
bringing it home.
worlds. Yeah. So I managed to kill him, defending our family honor, and took his head off as I did so. And by the end of it, King Robert declared us the victors in the eyes of the 7 and gave us the Danit lands back, returning it to our house. Pausing for effect.
Aunt Elia clambers atop her chair and stands there and goes, "Fuck the Ironwoods! Up with Dennett!" And everybody nearby just responds with yes, "Fuck the Ironwoods! Yay, Dennett!" And just the whole hall. Nobody else not nobody, but half of them didn't hear the story. But when Aunt Elia yells shit, people respond in kind. So yeah, those of you that aren't, went elsewhere, you just see Aunt Elia striking a pose, like one foot on the seat of her chair, and her other foot up on like the backrest, like a fucking pirate captain at the prow of their ship, right? She does that kind of big pose and just yells, "Fuck the Ironwoods," and everyone's like, "Yeah." What do we got, Ash?
Is Iris Dannett present?
She is not.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was just
I-
gauging how uncomfortable to be with that.
No, she was not. She was not here.
You'll notice I didn't ask about such things before before making those comments.
I would have listed her if she was here. You guys got here late. She basically picked at her food and left. She's just like, "No, I'm good." So yeah, she was specifically not here.
I just wanted to basically check, like, whether she heard that. Was that?
Yeah, no, I don't blame you at all.
So in conclusion, we got our lands back, and an Ironwood is dead. You might say that we came out ahead.
Oh,
And Elia drops
Yeah,
her goblet and hops out of her chair and sits down and shakes her head. Sir Adam Bridington, who is of fatherly age, but is not a father, he enjoys your pun immensely because it's a dad joke.
well, I mean,
How long were you? Yeah, how long were you sitting on that one, Erica?
All session. I was just like, when am I going to say this? When am I going to say it? Like, in
But
front of
was it
grandfather?
literally- Was it just this session, or did you think of it like 6 weeks ago?
No, it was. It was
Erica?
earlier today.
Don't lie.
yeah,
All right.
okay.
So yeah, Aunt Elia slumps, defeated and ashamed, as her answer to your punnery. But yeah, Sir Adam roars with laughter, etc., etc.
And Elia, you should speak with young Adam about his big accomplishment. I won't steal his thunder, but he's very proud.
Please steal it.
Oh, is he?
Adam,
Didn't get
Adam,
the-
come on over here.
What did the boy get betrothed while you were up there?
Oh.
Fall in love with some pretty northern lass?
Not quite, but
No.
this might
Right,
be.
I guess once I've been called over, I'll start making my way over. Yeah. Yes.
Pretty northern lass, burly southern
I put
boy,
my,
all the same thing.
Shut up, Luke.
I
Well,
put
not
my-
shut up. I mean, by all means, talk. Just like don't.
Luke is some distance away.
Okay.
Yeah, Ash meant shut up, Robert. That's all. It's fine.
Yeah, fair.
I put my arm around you, Adam, and I
Get
say,
so flustered now.
so Adam, tell Aunt Elia about your big accomplishment.
Oh. Oh goodness, I'm quite embarrassed now. I won the archery contest at the tourney.
Yes.
What? She snatches Sir Adam Bridington's drink away from him and leaps back up onto her chair.
Oh goodness.
To Adam Nymarian, the best archer in King's Landing, she bellows with her battlefield command voice. And everyone roars back, Adam Nymarian! Rah, 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 rah.
Well,
Adam the Archer!
well, the best one at that tourney anyway.
That, as if it's just any random tourney. This was attorney in King's Landing for the Princess Marcella's name day. Marcella's name day. And you beat everyone there.
Oh, I am quite pleased. But
Tell her what you
very-
got. Tell her what
Yes,
the king gave you.
Oh yes, a dragonbone bow.
Ooh.
Which is-
She hopped back down out of her chair. Where is it? Where
Well, it's in my room, but I had thought to ask if perhaps tomorrow we could go shooting or something, and I'll show it off then.
Why wait?
Because I rather thought that if you weren't a knight, you couldn't bring a weapon to a feast.
It's your feast. Who'd say no?
I thought it might be a bit gauche to just bring a bow down. I don't know. Right. I mean, I'll go and get it if you want. Do you want to see it?
We can wait till tomorrow. It's your feast. But dawn. We're shooting at dawn.
All right, shooting at dawn.
All right, Adam the Archer.
Oh, got him a nickname, did he?
I swear I'm still not used to it. Yes, people the archer. And it feels like it's got a lot of magnitude because it's the archer, like there's only one of them, like Bran the Builder or something. I just want a tourney. I didn't do anything.
Adam Unarcher is a stupid name, Adam. And none of my nephews or nieces are stupid. So you are Adam the Archer. Sir,
Yes,
the landed knight, Sir Broddington, he goes, Sir Adam the Horseman. Yes, that does sound better.
well, sort of. I mean, this isn't as big an achievement, but speaking of that, I have started riding again.
Have you? Good
I
lad.
clap you on the back.
Just a little bit with the help of Lord Dundarian and his squire.
Edric.
They help, and Luke lent me his horse. And I've still got. Well, I'm still quite rusty at it, but I got back on the horse eventually.
Well, you Lord Beric Donderi.
Yes.
I don't know, like.
Well then,
I will drift that
If you-
way since I heard his name.
if you were still awkward on the horse, despite his tutelage, it can simply be written off as the incompetence of Stormlanders, or the uneven ground of the Stormlands, because they can cock anything up. After you're done shooting with your aunt tomorrow, let's get you on a proper Dornish steed, excuse me, on some proper Dornish soil, and I bet you'll do just fine. So, after lunch.
Right. Yes, certainly. I plan on getting a new horse, but I would welcome your help with that as well.
Sure thing, lad. We'll find you one.
But Lord Dundarian was very gracious, and I was grateful for his help. I think not all Stormlanders are terrible, possibly.
Aunt Elia raises her glass to dead Stormlanders.
Oh,
and
that's
you
not what I meant.
get a huzzah from throughout the feast hall.
Oh, I'm so not going to mention who else I made friends with, so that's going to just go really badly.
Aunt Elia also gives you a grin. After that, she knows full what you meant. She just wanted an arrow to hit home. So
Yeah,
she gave you
that's-
that look. But yeah.
I've missed you, both of you.
Well, we'll just have to keep ducking. And then Sir Adam responds with a grave face. Shields are the way to go. It's Adam the Archer. Moving targets are no trouble for him. And then Aunt Elia's like, oh, right, or best just stay behind the battlement entirely.
Oh well, I
He's
mean
got a
that's
dragon bone now. One of your silly shields won't be any help. And they just kind of go back and forth with each other a few times.
I mean that's something like shooting from horseback. There's a thing that I need to perhaps get good at.
Well, you do happen to be the namesake of Sir Adam the Horseman. So if anyone can teach you how to do that silly archery nonsense from the saddle, I'm sure that it's your Aunt Elia, she cuts him in. Elia the Archer, as it turns out. Not called the Sandstorm for nothing. And they start to bicker with one another a little bit.
They're just the best.
They are.
Well, spend a bit of time with them certainly, and kind of let them have the banter and so on. But yeah, like Adam's trying to be modest, but is not being allowed. And he'll want to go and see Bessa at some point.
Yeah,
But
I say out of character, I'll sort of hand off the spotlight to you, Adam, if you want, while I just kind of continue talking with those two.
Sure. I thought Raina was coming over, but my wife has left the frame. So,
Still here.
okay. When I can't see you, you don't exist. You lack object permanence. You're an NPC in my game, and I'm never sure
Let's not start this
when,
again.
when you're spawned. But I thought Raina was heading over that way.
Mostly
were
when
you
I
not?
heard Dondarrion's name, and then I just kind of drifted off again because they were just gonna do their Stormlander bashing.
I wasn't
Okay.
bashing them. I was
didn't
being
talk
nice
very
about them.
I do want to. And we're home. There's no rush. I can still see everybody, and but I do want to spend a little time with grandfather.
Yeah.
Make sure that he eats something.
I'm sure Bessa will have already like forced a roll into his mouth.
He seems content to just sit at his spot at the head of the hall and take it all in. His grandchildren are back. People are happy. People are healthy. People are celebrating. He doesn't seem to be eating much, but he's, picking at his food a bit. But he mostly just seems content to sit and kind of take in a happy hall, which he probably hasn't had very often, So yeah, he doesn't. He's not joining in with the toasts and jumping up on his chair or anything. But yeah, he just seems content, which is a good look on him.
Good. I do make a point of mentioning just how good, like how good it is to be home, and how good this food tastes, and how nice it is to not be surrounded by Northerners who don't love us, but that I appreciated the experience. I do feel like it was worth it.
They have precious little reason to love us, grandchild, but they can learn to. We can teach them. And he gives you a confident nod.
I feel like we made excellent starts with that. I feel like
I feel like House Dondarrion's our friend now.
that we've
Sorry.
planted some good seeds, and that they will come to fruit.
I mean, Luke literally
He-
sent Lady Olenna like boxes of seeds and stuff.
Yes.
Nice symbolically.
So yeah, Granddad just kind of nods contentedly. in agreement. What about Luke? What's your plan for the feast?
Luke has found some attractive young girls,
Of course he
and
has.
he kind of people as they look over to him, they can hear him. He's like, there he was, 8 feet tall, Nathan Lugas, our former ally. He'd been ensnared with the same wicked spider web of his brother's plot as we had, and I had to face him down. But when the battle was done, I left a scar in him and showed him mercy. He's giving the tales from his point of view, which are all slightly more heroic for him.
Of
That's-
course.
I love it. I love that it's basically narrating it like it's Scaramouche or something.
Sir, this is a Burger King. I don't know what you're...
He's also going to heavily imply that Orton Lugas is a skin changer who could take the form of a spider, or so the rumors went. We can't confirm that.
They seem suitably impressed, suitably afraid, suitably, like they've had enough to drink, and also they are castle small folk, and you are one of the lords of the castle, but you're also easy on the eyes and stuff. They are contentedly going along with your story in a good-natured, wine-lubricated way that keeps conversations flowing smoothly.
That's essentially what he's doing. So I'm really out of it. So that's why I just
Right. That's
fine.
okay then. Let's go back. Bela, did you have anyone else in mind that you wanted to approach? I'm trying to just take us in a circle before I.
Those were those two were the main people I was interested in talking to, but I imagine at some points I will do a similar kind of thing that Luke is doing, except not trying to bed anyone, just trying to brag about
I'm
the
not
battles
trying
fought.
that hard.
Well, okay, but considering I'm going to spend 0 time trying to do that, you'd still be doing it more than I would. So yeah, that's what I'm doing. Just more of that.
And you are certainly able to enthrall and impress the assortment of very minor knights and sworn swords and men-at-arms, that are up here. And Alisane Mormont, vouches for and doubles most of your stories. She's like, I was there, I've seen it. And she's like, Dondarian, I fought him too. He stayed on his horse though. And they just but she'll be going along with it with kind of that same group of the Master at Arms, the Strong Sider, Sir Derek, and some of the other kind of knights and so she'll be over them just completely backing you up with whatever claim you make. She'll go, yeah, no, I've seen it. And you could be like, and then I fought the mammoth, and she was like, I thought you got 2 of them. She's just, she's just getting a little carried away, a little bit drunk. Notice that you recall that the times that you all saw her, she was going for ale, and this time she's just drinking Nymerian wine. So you think maybe the quality might be overtaking her usual quantity. So she's getting louder, and the Mormont accent is coming out more and more. But yeah, she just cheerfully joins in.
Awesome. Yeah.
Okay then, back to Ash. Was it Bessa, I believe, that you said you wanted to go visit?
Yeah.
As you approach, her maternal sense tingles or something. Maybe she sees your reflection in the silver of a goblet approaching from behind her. Maybe she hears the uneven, distinctive gait from your twisted leg. Either way, just before you're about to announce yourself behind her, she turns and goes, Adam, come here, lad. And she is tearing open a roll and thrusting it towards you.
I thought she had a
and he-
secret or something. No, it's a
and-
roll.
He goes, look at the madness we wrought. That's the word, wrought? Yeah, look at this. And she's stuffing the roll in her face. And it's one of her yeasty rolls, but it's got like cubed up chunks of like cheddar cheese in there, and also mixed in diced up Dornish dragon peppers. Kind of, it's like jalapeno cheddar rolls. And she's like,
Holy
look
shit.
at this, look at this. And she's like basically stuffing one right in your face.
Bessa, this is the greatest thing I have ever tasted.
And look at this, it's only just my first dinner.
I was going to ask how you're settling in, but I think this is the answer. This is perfect. I love
Oh,
it. Thank you.
so many wondrous things to work with, and I'm not having to buy it all from anybody, so I can just cook what I want, bake what I want, feed who I want. Speaking of which, and she shoves you the other half of the roll. Go on.
Yes. I'm
Late
Like-
to your own dinner.
well, we were talking with Willie Will.
Well,
We had a lot of catching up to do, but we're here now.
how's he doing?
Well, there's a bit less of him than there was when we left, but he seems all right. He's worried about Oris because Oris basically did everything he told him not to. But well, that's I have hope that they will work that out between themselves. And he spoke he spoke very highly of you.
Has the big hairy fool had dinner yet?
He said he would be down later, but so you might have to keep an eye on him.
Oh, she needs to take care of him.
Where'd you leave him then?
Oh, we left him in the solar. He had a goblet of wine or two to finish.
Right. Well, here you are then. She gets up and pats her seat, and she points at the remainder of her food. There you are. Sit. I'm off to the solar.
Bessa,
And she clucks her way away.
Bessa, I'm not done. Okay.
She forces you into the seat, and rushes off because she has heard of someone that has not had dinner yet.
Damn it. All right then. Yeah, no choice but
You
to
can-
eat this now.
You could
'cause
kind of go after, like,
she
if
will
you
check.
really wanted to keep role playing, you could go after her or whatever.
Uh,
I'm saying that is her desired outcome.
No, it's fine. I'm not going to chase after her. I just wanted to ask her advice on a thing, but it can probably wait.
All right. So the rest of you saw Adam go talk to Lady Bessa, and then she stormed away. So maybe he got a little handsy or something,
Just like last time.
right?
with-
I mean, he's done it
It's a
before.
pattern.
Pattern.
I like big butts and cannot lie.
I was gonna say she has you covered, but then we're getting into fan art territory.
Oh.
What makes you think I'm not? I mean, I'm not. That's not the fan art I'm drawing, but I mean, fan art exists.
Yeah.
So all right then. Anybody else with any particular NPC plans? Just general good-natured stuff?
Yeah, I've had enough drama today, so I'll just be sociable and pleasant and the air.
Just gonna survey your domain imperiously.
There is a lot of that, but
Yeah, I
there's a
mean,
lot of like smug pride, kind of, especially when she's like watching Luke and Bela, and they're telling their stories, and Adam talking to Aunt Elia, and all that stuff that's happening. That, yeah, she just feels a lot of pride for them and on their behalf. So content and smug.
all right, we're gonna just fast forward a little hand wavium. Let's say it's been maybe 20 or 30 minutes after that of everybody just kind of chilling, having a good time. Raina is, up there sitting with Grandpa. You can just you can literally take a seat from anyone but Grandpa that you want to, right? So like you're able to get the seat next to him, that sort of thing. And the two of you sit there and you look a little startlingly familiar to like everyone else in the hall, or similar, not familiar. And except for the fact that he's like a 70-year-old man, and you're like some super hot little 20-year-old, like the look on your face and the posture and the, you know what I mean? Like you guys both have that, right? So you're up there, and Adam, where did you wander off to after eating the food? Like, did you kind of fall into orbit with Bela, or head up towards Reyna and Grandpa, or?
I think probably I would want to check in with Grandpa, because, like, just if nothing else, to just let him know that Will and like ourselves like had that conversation and things are okay. So I'll kind of start that way, but we'll maybe chat to Raina a bit as well.
He will just nod to the seat on the other side of him. Go on, have a seat, lad. Sorry, wrong voice. I knew you lot must have talked it over because you came down here, but I'm glad. I'm sorry, and he says this loud enough for both of you. I am sorry for the lies and the secrets and the ones that yet remain. And I'm sorry for burdening you with these. But you are, despite being my grandchildren, not children anymore. You deserve to know, and you need to help carry the burden of these secrets now.
I know you just want to protect us in the ways you can, Grandfather. If possible, if we could just try to keep the secrets and lies to a minimum, that would be great.
He gets a faraway, sad look. He goes, "It would have been, yes, foreboding." But then, on the other side of the hallway, down comes. You hear the limping, of like crutch and all that, and you hear the bear-like growl of Woolly Will as he's hobbling his way in on his one good leg and his crutch. And you remember his beard is this bushy red gold that's getting white streaks in it. Well, his beard is quite a bit redder than the last time you guys saw him. And Bessa is getting swatted away from him, following him, wiping at his bloody face with her baker's apron. But following sullenly behind them and no longer actively committing any violence is Oris. Looks like he got one good pop in the face. You notice that the flower on Bessa's cheek has some like tear smudges in it. You notice that Woolly Will's eyes look a little red. You notice that Oris's eyes look a little red. But it looks like they had a good hour or so of talking it out, getting punched in the nose once, talking it out some more. Then Bessa showed up, some hugging, lots of crying, da-da-da. This looks like the aftermath of something kind of cathartic.
Aw.
Yeah, I knew Bessa would help matters.
Right? She makes everything better.
Yeah, she's magic.
She's what they need.
Yeah, she's a sweetheart.
So, anyone with particular reactions to them returning?
Yes.
Felicia, are you good? Okay, Robert, any big reaction to that? Erica.
The raised eyebrows. I go about my business.
And I guess, go ahead, Ash. I was just making a big show of not watching you wag your tail and jump up and down.
like a little sausage dog.
I have years of seeing more excited begging than yours.
Oh,
So
Not me.
I see. It's like that. Okay. No, well, I mean, like,
so my assumption is in this particular social initiative role,
It'll be Adam.
Adam would be spending destiny points as needed, then defeating the stream boss for more destiny points to remove dice from everyone else until he made sure he got to go first. So, Ash,
well, I mean,
how does Adam react?
I mean, I wouldn't be an asshole about it or anything, but I do have like 4 destiny points and 2 temporary ones, so
So
And-
yes,
and a monkey on my back that wants to see Oris naked. Not me personally, Adam. Anyway, yeah. So, like, first I'm gonna make sure that like that they're sat down and kind of settled. He's not gonna just ambush them totally.
yeah,
but,
Wooly Will just plops down on one of the first empty seats he sees, and he's like, leave off, woman. I've suffered worse, and he's done worse, and it's fine. It just, come on, quit your clucking, hen, pick someone else, and that sort of thing. And she goes, oh, henpecked, is it? Henpecked. And she smacks him with the apron, and she storms off, and you see her starting to scoop up 2 big plates of food.
oh.
That's her love language.
Yeah, I was thinking like that. That's like clearly like the most adoring bickering.
Right?
Wooly Will, for his part, as she leaves, reaches out and just takes the nearest goblet from like one of the house men at arms, and he just cried, "What?" And just doesn't like chug it, but he's like, "I earned this," and and starts to have a drink, and yeah. But then he doesn't seem to be doing much else. Oris kind of stops at the entrance to the feast hall, and is looking around like he's not sure where to sit. Like, new kid in the high school cafeteria.
Yeah.
You guys, kind of everyone sees it, but again, I'm assuming that Ash would be the one to send Adam as his Oris-seeking missile. And you can see Oris is just kind of stopped at the entrance and is looking around.
All right. Does Adam have a free chair next to him?
He does, and Oris is a knight, so it would not be terribly out of place for a knight to be seated up there at the high table with you guys, if invited up by a member of the family.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
it's
So
not,
yeah. So it wouldn't be committing something scandalous.
nah. It's mildly unusual, but it's also your celebratory feast at your home in Wyvern's Rest. So like, it's
Yeah.
not a big deal. It's like I said, it's just mildly unusual, but it's not a tremendous faux pas or anything.
Yeah. No, that's fine. When Adam will have been kind of a little sort of startled by his arrival. I'm kind of surprised that he's showing up. But we'll kind of like, as he kind of scans the room, like when his gaze kind of arrives, when it kind of passes where Adam is, Adam will just kind of look at him in a sort of conciliatory fashion, but kind of look sheepish, I guess, and just very lightly like pat the top of the table in the space next to him.
Oris, who for the record is still wearing his traveling clothes, with like a thin sheen of like red Dornish dust on it from the road, like he just never got changed or whatever. You see him take in a deep breath, before striding your way. Like, okay, kind of. I can do
This
this.
might
I
as
gotta
well
do this.
happen.
Yeah. Um, and as he goes striding up towards you, and he doesn't seem to be hesitating at going to the high table, or getting close to Lord Makar, or sitting just a seat away from him, or you can tell that it was talking with you that had him feeling anxious or guilty or angry. Who knows? His features are unreadable at this distance. Also, because he doesn't have his hair up. So he's got the whole, like, Henry Cavill's hair in The Witcher when it's all fucking loose and in his face, only it's black instead of white. But, like, he's got that whole Oris unreadable features going. Um,
He's like a
but-
wall.
So you're not too sure just what he's feeling.
No, that's fine. I mean,
And as he.
sorry,
No, go ahead.
like Adam's a bit of a jumble as well, but he just knows that he doesn't want the feud to continue. But he's like, he was quite prepared for Oris to like refuse, but he's like said, like, don't fucking blow it this time.
So as he makes his way up towards the table, and Reyna, you notice Grandfather carefully not responding. He does not wave Oris away and deny him this sort of seat, that sort of thing. He gives no sign of noticing it, but it's in his hall, so you know he noticed it. So Oris makes his way up and is starting to go around and head to the back of the table. Adam, you notice Aunt Elia giving him an almost predatory look that you now recognize, because Bela did tell him about Oris hitting Robert a couple of times, and Oris has grown. So you.
Sorry.
No, it's fine. So you're able to notice, like, hey, wait a second. But just then, as he's making his way up, a rider that is also dusty from the road, and it's unusual for them to arrive after dark. A rider comes rushing in, and like everyone kind of turns and looks, because this rider is wearing the colors of House Nimeros Martel.
Oh.
So they are a herald or messenger or something of that sort for your uncle, Prince Doran, like directly serving House Nimeros Martel. And he comes rushing right up the middle of the hall and takes a knee before the high table. He says, Lord Nymerian, my apologies, but I was bidden to travel with all haste, and to not spare my nag, with the precise term. I apologize, my lord. Prince Oberyn Martel has bade me make all haste. He and the Sand Snakes will be here by the dawn. They are riding through the night to avoid the Ironwood unpleasantness, he says. He bids me you make Wyvern's Rest ready to welcome him and his daughters. And cut. 6 o'clock.
Fuck! Son of a bitch!
What did I say?
Yes! I'm excited.
Didn't even let me talk to him.
He's an evil bastard.
I love you, Ash, and I love making you not get what you want yet.
No, that's fine. It's just I was gonna offer him a role. But just not. It wasn't even gonna say anything. We're just gonna. Well, not even gonna like talk about what clearly went on, but just go like, Bessa made these. These are awesome. And then just let it be silent if need be.
You will be able to pick that up next episode in 2
Okay.
weeks.
I will
and
in emotion.
You can do a lot worse than giving Oris food to, like, get him to
That's-
get close and sniff your hand and then trust
Well-
you. You know, all that normal stuff.
Well, this is exactly the thing that I realized that like Adam was using his love languages to talk to Oris. He needs to use Oris's love languages, so that's where he was going wrong.
Oh,
Yep.
that's true.
So you're
So,
gonna hit him and give him food?
Yeah, hitting things.
I'm
with food.
not gonna hit him.
so we will see everyone back here in 2 weeks' time. Thank you for joining in, chat. Hope you guys had a good time. We had some ups, we had some downs, we had some revelations, we had some meta talk about some of the small differences that might be big differences in this alternate universe. But yeah, to be clear, there is no Dany on the horizon that people have heard of. Viserys is dead. Blah blah blah. So, you know, some stuff's going on here. Kind of like a Star Wars without a Luke Skywalker type of vibe, maybe. So hopefully people enjoyed some of that knowledge, finding out why Wooly Will can get away with some of the ways he talks to some people, and why like the Strong Cider and Sir Adam are like, shut up, Wooly Will's talking, right? You know, because Sir Willem Derry has that rep. So it was a big episode, lots of that, lots of fun narration from player characters, giving their versions of how things went down, or in Lucaris's case, how things could have gone down in a different story about different people with a different protagonist. You know, that sort of thing. Just, you know.
And you know, with it being Dorn, it's not going to raise any eyebrows when he removes his shirt.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh yeah, I mean that's just expected.
That's part of the whole party
So
vibe.
thanks for
I mean,
hanging
if you
out
think I'm
with us.
wearing a shirt with the sand snakes get here, you are sadly mistaken.
So 2 weeks from now, we will be back with the episode that is actually beginning the second big arc of this show. We just had some kind of transitory episodes in between from where we largely finished the first arc before we're kicking off the second one. But we will be picking up in a couple of weeks, starting off with the second big arc of A Sea of Spears. And I hope to see you all here. Thanks for hanging out with us, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.